Today's episode is brought to you by elitefts.com. Founded in 1998 with the primary aim to live, learn, and pass on. Please help Elite FTS support this mission by smashing the like button, leaving a comment, sharing with a friend, and thinking of us for your training needs. If you can put it in a gym bag or load weights on it, Elite FTS has it.
What's going on? I'm Dave Tate. We are broadcasting from the middle of the Elite FTS weight room, where the underground still thrives and you're part of the crew. It's time to sit down, keep it real, and cut the bullshit. Welcome to Table Talk. You guys are selecting Merrick for your telehealth platform needs. They have a couple different ways that they go about doing this. The first is through a self-selected experience. There's a table talk panel, which is the full panel. That would be the panel that I personally get twice a year. That's checking everything. You name it, it's all there. The other panel is a checkup panel with a guided optimization. You're connected with a patient care coordinator, and the patient care coordinator will meet with you to determine what your needs are. Thing to be able to help optimize your health or mitigate without judgment. So the discount code again is Table Talk Merrick Health for all your hormone optimization and performance needs. Today's episode is brought to you by Element, a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything that you need and nothing that you don't. In other words, no sugar, no artificial coloring, no artificial ingredients, no gluten, no fillers, and no BS. With Element, I love the watermelon. The watermelon tastes freaking awesome. I drink one pack every day, no matter what. People that train out here, it's sitting out here for them all the time. The boxes don't last very long. Right now, Element is offering Table Talk listeners a free sample pack with any purchase. That's 8 single-serving packages free with any Element order. Get yours at drinkelement.com/Table Talk. The deal is only available through the link in the description. The other thing is, if you don't like it, you can just give it away to a salty friend, and Element will give you a 100% refund. No risk, money back guarantee. Head over to drinkelement.com/Table Talk. All right, guys, we are back with another episode of Table Talk. I just had to run out and grab cigars real quick, so not as prepared for the intro as typically I am. But anyhow, my guest today is Jan Blakley. Really no need for an introduction. This is the 6th time we've had you out for our podcast.
Great.
So you did some extra content before. So what'd you guys do earlier? Just start with that.
Well, Dave, I have been getting a lot of requests, perhaps because I've been complaining too much about my arthritis, but I've been getting a lot of requests from people saying, you should do some stuff on, you know, an older athlete and how you're dealing with your arthritis. I have terribly crippling arthritis. I'm down to almost just the elbow, bend and straighten. That's the good joint I got left. The rest of them are pretty painful. But in any case, so I thought that what we would do today, and I brought some guys with me, we did 3 separate attempts to deal with joint kindness, being good to your joints. How can we train if we have arthritis or we have joint soreness or probably an injury or something? What are ways that we can be gentler on the joint? And the whole entire crux of these 3 separate things we did was to increase the muscle stimulation and decrease the joint stress. And so typically, if you want to get stronger, and you have to increase the weight and you increase the muscle stress, and right along with it comes the joint stress and the recovery burden. Those things go up, you know, together. And so is there a way, maybe, to keep the stimulation high and maybe do a better deal of limiting the joint stress and the recovery burden? And there is, and I've been doing it, and I've been doing it with just my biceps and triceps. That's all I've been training. But we did that, and I did a little bit with them too. But there were 3 separate attacks, 3 separate lines of thinking. about how to go about that. So they might be in 3 separate videos. We did an actual workout that is over in between 15 and 30 repetitions from start to finish after the warm-up. So you warm up the joint, and then you only do the reps that are productive. You don't do anything. You don't make a move that doesn't make you better. Every rep has to produce. And that way, I can get 30 productive reps. And I explain it this way, Dave. If you do a set of 10, and number 8, 9, and 10 are really strenuous, they're real hard. You work hard on them. You maybe barely get that 10th one. You know, and everybody knows, without knowing any physiology or any science or anything, everybody knows that the first 3 are not as productive as those last 3 in a set of 10. You can ask anybody who just started training, do you get more out of the first 3 reps in a set of 10, or do you get more out of the last 3 reps? And everybody knows. Oops, I'm not supposed to hit that. I remember that from last time, pardon me. Everybody knows that you get more out of the ones you work harder on. And that's also panned out in science and physiology, but it's already known. So, if there were a way to do just the last 3 reps and not do the first 7 of a set, I mean, think about it. You're getting ready to do a set. You know the last 3 are going to be ball busters, and they're going to make you change. They're going to make you better. They're going to make you stronger and bigger. The first 7, you're just getting to that point. You're just going through the motions to deliver you to the place where you really get some stimulation and work. So we're not going to do those. We're just going to do the last 3. And we're going to do those last 3 over and over and over and over. And so it's borrowing from the rest pause system. And so what we did more than this, but this is one thing, right? We're trying to, so I want to reduce the number of reps that I do in the set, reduce the number of straightens and bends for that joint, for the whole workout. And so we did a set of 15. So we did 5 groups of 3. We did 3 hard reps, rested briefly, borrowing from that rest pause system, but not enough to fully recover. And then we did those 3 again, and we rested a little bit longer, and then we did those 3 again, and we did it longer. We did it 5 times. We did a group of 15 exhaustive repetitions, so that each time we got to that 3rd rep in each group of 3, it was nearly impossible, and I had to help a little bit sometimes. And then we rested about 6 minutes, and we did it again. And then that's it. You leave. You've done 30 productive reps. You had 30 bends and straightens on that joint. And that's it. But all of them, bar none, were useful and productive and hard. And so this is the rub. So this makes a lot of sense, right? I'm just going to do the stuff that helps me. I'm not going to be in a gym for half an hour. I'm not going to do 6 exercises. I'm going to do 1 exercise, but I'm going to get 30 stimulating reps in. And very hard reps, heavy, hard. Perhaps brutal would be a good word, but they're effortful. They're full of effort, and those are the productive ones. And everybody already knows this. Everybody knows those last reps are the payoff reps. Don't need science to tell you this, but they are. They're the ones that have the greatest neurological and physiological benefit to cause change. So we just do those. Now the problem is, you can't waltz in the gym and not have the right attitude. And this is where people, so to work this hard and to get the privilege of coming in and doing 2 groups of 15 and leaving, that's a great privilege. And that is an immense amount of stimulation for a very minimal amount of recovery burden and joint stress. There's a cost to that. And that cost is in mental intensity. And if you don't have your head right, this isn't going to work, right? You have to come in and you have to show up. You have to show all the way up. You have to show up. And there's no in between. You warm up and then you go. And then you go home and you eat and you sleep and you rest and you recover and you grow like crazy. And this works like crazy, but it only works if you have two things. I said the mental part, but you got to have some heart. You got to come in and want to be better. You can't just want to be at the gym and work out. You have to want to be better, because this is about getting better for the minimal recovery cost. Now, recovery cost is low and joint stress is low, but the mental burden of having to walk in the gym and do that, and I hope people watch it and see how hard, I think they all worked at it, but we didn't do the exact same thing, but they all worked hard. And I hope people watch that and they say to themselves, well, maybe I can't do that all the time. Maybe I can't work that hard all the time. I don't want to go to the gym and have to have my eyeballs pop out on every single rep that I do. Every time I touch the weight, I feel like I'm going to explode inside. And that's okay. Maybe you can see what we did and incorporate some of it back into what you're doing. And maybe you can do 4 and 5 and 6 sets or something. But if you get more of these kind of reps, the reps where you are really, really straining, and then that is self-limiting. So if you do this and you start incorporating more and more of these extremely hard repetitions into your workout will shorten itself. You can't go outside, Dave, and if I told you to be your best, and I want you to run as fast as you can, as hard as you can, and as far as you can, that is self-limiting. Being your best.
Not going to happen either.
Yeah. Well, if I ask you to do anything.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
It's self-limiting. You can't just, so that's what happens. People do the opposite. They plan these big, long workouts, and instead of doing their best on any of it, they're doing a little bit here and a little bit here, and they're metering out their effort throughout this workout because they got all these things planned. So if you go in and you start to incorporate more of these repetitions like people can watch on the video, you'll find yourself having planned 4 exercises, and then you drop into 3 because you just don't have anything left for the 4th when you're going, I gotta go, I gotta leave the gym. And then eventually that'll drop to 2. And maybe you can get down all the way to 2 sets of 1 exercise where 30 repetitions produce growth. Otherwise, if you want 30 repetitions that produce growth and you're doing sets of 10 or sets of 8, that's a lot of extra reps you got to do to get those 30. It's a tripling. It's 90 reps you got to do to get 30 winners. We're just going to do the winners, and you got to recover from that. You got to recover from 90 bends and straightens, and that's on you. You know, that's something you have to do, and it's a trade-off. You trade away intensity for volume, and as you increase the intensity, the volume is self-limiting. You can't have high intensity and high volume. Those two are mutually exclusive. You have to make a choice. And many good programs do that. They make a deal between super high intensity and super much volume, and you find this good middle ground, and a lot of programs are there. But those programs have a cost in recovery and a cost in joint stress. And so what I was trying to do was illustrate a way to train that is extreme, and what is supposed to be extreme is the extreme minimalization of this ratio of stimulus to recovery burden and joint stress. And so that's a long-winded explanation of what we did, but you see the general principle. We did it 3 different ways.
No, but it opens up a bigger conversation to where there's a lot of assumptions that were being made in what you stated. So I'm going to circle back and fill in the gaps of those assumptions, because I'm pretty sure I know what you're talking about. So with the exercises, actually, regardless of the exercises, there's tempo control. You're not starting with momentum.
We did that.
Yeah, you know, because there's
Very good, Dave. Yeah.
that plays into a lot of this. So to me, there's like a balance. My joints are trashed as well. So there's this orchestrated balance to where if you're talking about training for strength, more bench, you know, bigger lifts, work capacity plays a role. Sets times reps times weight, you know, that overall building that work capacity and acceleration, you know, generating a force. You're not going to bench press slow and with constant tension and flex hard at the top to build a stronger bench press. Right. But, and this is where I think I could have done things better in the past when I was competing, but fortunately I did a lot of these things, but probably not as much because I had a strong hit background, you know. So that was my off season before I came to Westside. It was like, here's the 12-week program. You pull out of Powerlifting USA, you convert the percentages. And when that's over, it was hit training. Yeah. And then I learned a lot of what you're talking about here is how to milk one set for everything. And then it's like, oh shit. So then when it came back to powerlifting with the strength, there's a certain point where you got to ask yourself, why am I doing this movement? Am I doing it is it for shoulder strength for the bench? Then maybe it shouldn't be a side lateral raise. You know, but if I'm doing exercises in the program to build muscle, then why do I need 6 sets of 10 if I can figure out how to use a lighter weight and just do one, maybe 2 sets, like 1 set to figure out how much weight to use. Then that's like okay, this is light, I can use this. And then you just kill it on that next set. And based upon how hard you did that, if it was rest pause or strip sets or whatever it was, do you do another one? You don't know till after you do the first one. Sometimes after the first one, you're like, cut, done. I fulfilled the obligation. And
that's something to strive for.
Yes. And it's one thing.
Work so hard that you're finished and you can leave.
Yes.
If not, you have to stay and do another set.
Well, I think because when I have the clinics that I have, the train your ass off things, which by the way, the applications on my Instagram now, the applications end August 11th. But anyhow, when I have those, a big chunk of it is teaching people how to do what we're talking about, how to take these movements that if I really wanted to, I could probably debate doesn't even really do anything for their strength. It's more just the hypertrophy. I could debate both sides of it, but if it's in there, why not find a way to get it done where you hammer the muscle harder in a shorter period of time that's easier to recover from? But what I have found is the nemesis is the prescribed number. So if you say 3 sets, you know, I want you to do 10 and their tempo's under control. They're flexing hard. They're squeezing everything they have. About 4 really gets hard. They change the tempo just to kick the can is what it's like. Like don't, so I'm trying to teach them, don't kick the can. If you only get 7, but 3 of them were great, who cares about the other 3? But that 10, you know, where this is interesting because you're old as fuck like I am. If you go way back into the programs, these movements, like we're talking about the accessories, they were always like 3 sets of 10/15. Well, it was a range, like somewhere between 10 to 15. And in my brain, I calculated that as, oh, I'm going to be like to failure somewhere between 10 or 15. Then somewhere over a period of time, it became 3 sets of 10, 3 sets of 12. It became this precise number that people started going after that instead of the feel. Am I correct on the momentum, you know, trying to reduce the momentum with these movements?
The first thing that we did with a guy that's a little older than me came in and came from Houston, and the first thing we did was talk about the reversal from one direction to another. and not getting any jerk in that and impact forces on that. And then we spent a lot of time talking about beginning the motion without moving the weight or the device or the machine or the bar. But we started about beginning the motion by flexing the muscle and recruiting motor units. And so, you know, I can take my muscle, and before I bend my arm, I can actually flex the muscle. And what I'm doing right now is just recruiting more and more and more and more. And I haven't moved yet. So, but if I was thinking about moving, that's the first thing that happens. And so all of this gets lost.
Yeah.
And so what we did was we talked about, don't worry about moving anything. Forget about your hand. We had a rope. Forget about that. And just flex the muscle and start recruiting motor units. And feel, and I put my hand on his tricep. And I said, I should be able to feel the muscle getting harder and harder and harder before anything moves. And this is a gradual ramping up of recruitment, slow and smooth. And then what happens is at some point you recruit enough that it starts to move on its own. You don't have to move it. If you concentrate on a smooth adding in of more and more and more motor units, the muscle will get harder and harder, and at some point it'll begin to contract and it'll begin to move. And so we started off that way. The middle of the range of the motion, I said, I don't even care about. Just go ahead and go through the middle of the range. And then at the end, we're going to slow down and go into the squeeze and into a maximal recruitment. Isometrically, we're doing a tricep rope push down. We went into that all the way, and he had a maximal contraction with maximal recruitment of every motor unit he could, and nothing was moving. And then we reversed it. We didn't just shut off and come down. We slowly came out of a full isometric contraction, which when you really hit it, it's hard to not just let go. And then,
Yeah.
And so we gradually unrecruited a motor unit and a motor unit and a motor unit. And then it eventually started to move. And when it got a little bit of a break in the arm, we just came up and started over again. So we were practicing turning on motor units in a ramped form all the way to max, and then turning them off in a reverse ramp. Letting that's what lets weight down. You stop pushing the other way, and you shut off, and that lets it go back. And that is incredibly demanding mentally, and it fatigues the muscle in a way that other ways of contracting simply do not. And if you have never done this, and hopefully people will try it and take it seriously, they will feel something they have never felt doing it any other way. You can move weights around, you can flex muscles, you can do isometrics, you can do all this, but this gradual ramping is something different. It's a neuromuscular training.
Yes,
And
I think it's
smooth. I call these smooth reps. You just smooth into it. You get a maximal contraction. You're doing the best you can. It's like if you're lifting a max, and then you smooth out, and it's good to your joints. It's good to your joints.
I think it's good for everything though, because if you go way back, it's the mind-muscle connection,
And that
right?
also, it's training.
Where
Yeah.
it's part of that, to where I am going to backstep something that I said a little bit earlier. Even with strength at the high peak end, you do what you're talking about, but it's more automatic,
Yeah, you
right?
do it all, yeah.
And it's different than if you lay down there and say on the bench and just try to slam into it. That's not what you do.
No,
You're conditioned to do what you're talking about with that tricep thing. And most people, it's a learned skill that obviously is going to get better over time, where I think I was fortunate to stumble across it at a very young age, and actually with people who knew what they were doing too, to learn that with more isolation movements, dumbbell curls, back then might even been seated concentration curls because they look cool, but anything to feel that full range, that full stretch. What I've not been able to explain as well as you just did is the start, because I would just say no momentum,
Yes.
but what you said is perfect. Contract, flex, then
It'll move.
it will move. And don't do dynamic work with it. Like just let it go. And as I've gotten older, you know, and joints are worse and worse and worse, that becomes with most of the training I do, the only way I can train things. And the only thing I've ever wondered about this is I recover muscularly, right? So the muscle soreness faster than if I did not. You know, if I just put more force into it and did.
Yeah.
And I don't believe it's the added volume. It could be, you know, which makes it harder to recover from afterwards. I don't know if it's the load. You know, that's because you're using less weight.
This could be a very light load too. And
Yes.
that is another advantage to the joint. Muscles get tons of tension and they grow and they get stronger because of the tension too. And the weights are light and there's no momentum. There's nothing to fall or drop or jerk or get pulled or pushed. It's just, and I think the best word for it is smoothness. It can be incredibly intense. You're thinking, well, if I got to move slow, I can't go full. You're wrong about that. You are going to get a full muscle. You are going to try as hard as you can possibly try on these because you're getting a maximal muscular contraction at the peak where it's the safest to do that. Everything's still. Your arms are, your joints are in place, and now you're giving it everything you got smoothly. You're not jerking into that. But I told him, I said, try to hyperextend your elbow. Once it's straight, try to hyperextend it. See if you can. You cannot, but you can try. And when you try, the muscle actually hardens up even more because you're trying. And it does shorten a little bit internally, a little bit more. And so people, you have to, and this is hard for powerlifters, right? Because all we care about is weight. We don't care about muscles at all, right? I care about how much you bench, how much you deadlift. I don't care about what your muscle size is, but muscle size and muscle strength are interwoven. They are interwoven. There are a few things that we can do with cell volumization to change that a little bit. But generally speaking, if we took a cross-section of muscle and we look at it and we measure it per every square centimeter, I forget the number. People that are closer to their education than me, being educated in the late 1900s. This is when 90s. Late 1900s is when I learned all this.
I know, it's just the way you framed it. It's funny
yeah,
as hell.
Yeah, this is a known value for human muscle. That's not super glycogenated or for normal human muscle that is trained or untrained. It's just cross-sectional area. It's like 9.2 kilograms per square centimeter. Somebody knows this and they're going to be like, James, wrong. But there's a number that every square centimeter in cross-sectional area can produce in force along the length of the muscle. And the way we get stronger is because we increase that. Muscles get bigger when they get stronger. They get stronger when they get bigger. For 80+% of your journey. And you can do some neuromuscular learning and learn how to use the muscle better and get stronger and get bigger lifts. And you can volumize the cell and make it bigger without, getting stronger. But those are small changes. The big changes in every muscle is when it gets bigger, it gets stronger. And so we lose something if we try to get too specific. And so if we're trying to get bigger, which earlier you said hypertrophy might not do anything for strength. Every bigger muscle is stronger than it was. And so it does do something for strength. And there is value for off-season bodybuilding. But what I was going to say is that we have to dissociate ourselves from the weight if we want to understand how muscles work. Because if you're moving weight, you're moving it from point A to point B. And your mind is on where the weight is. And we teach bar path, but bar path has nothing to do with what's happening. This is what's moving the bar.
Yeah, it's different.
And it's not connected. This pack doesn't go anywhere near the bar, ever. And I guess when it touches, but it does, and it moves the bar. And so if we learn to let go of numbers and we focus, and I have done this my whole career, focus on effort when I train people. Effort, effort, effort. That's why I don't argue about sets and reps and stuff with people. That program will be fine. That program will be fine. I think I have the best program, and I have reasons for it. But I'm not going to argue that. What I'm going to argue is if you're given effort, you'll do fine.
When I was saying that I could debate against the hypertrophy that's not off season, it would be preseason.
Okay.
Like, so the last 2 phases, 8 weeks before a meet.
I still think it can make you stronger.
It can make you, yes, but it's not the priority.
No, but I don't think we should discount it either.
No, I agree 100%.
And I know you weren't.
Yeah.
I know you weren't, but I'm just saying.
Well, some do. The higher frequency programs do kind of discount it because it's just those mainless. Some do.
Okay.
But I don't think I agree with you. I don't think it should be. I think it should be in there because it should be a transitional thing. Because you don't want to, if anything, with what we're talking about, you don't want to lose the skill to be able to do it.
That's why you don't spend a lot of time in hypertrophy.
Yeah.
Not because it doesn't make you stronger, because you have a specific application in powerlifting, and you want to do that the most.
Now,
do your thing.
When you were still, even after you were competing,
I just want to make sure I finish that point. I started it, and I'm saying we should dissociate ourselves from the numbers. And I got to get 6, I got to get 3, I got to get.
Mm-hmm.
If we want to understand this kind of training, this is a different kind of training. So powerlifters can set that aside for a minute and grow muscle and grow connection to muscle if they spend a little time thinking like this and thinking about contraction and effort and not how many numbers did I get.
The weight is another thing I think they need to disassociate themselves with too.
Number 2.
Where the pushback on that becomes progressive overload still has to be part of the equation. And I'm like, well, how exactly are you going to define that? Because I can define it by time under tension if you just want to go with what you're talking about.
It's the easiest way to keep track of stuff.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know, but they'll say if the weight doesn't go up, then the growth isn't happening. If the reps don't go up, the growth isn't happening to where.
Not true, but it's harder to keep track.
Yeah, those aren't the only metrics. Mm-hmm. It can be the effective reps that you're talking about, time under tension. There's other things.
Yeah. So this is just a tool that if people, these are just ideas that I'm giving people, and they can see what is useful for them and what they can pull into their program. But I guarantee these things work, and they work like crazy. And so I showed a extreme version of it.
Yeah.
And so there's that, and then there's plugging that into what other people are doing. And all of that will be beneficial. It's all good. It's not like you have to do it this way or you have to do it that way. This is a useful and productive way to minimize some joint stress and get a ton of muscle growing. And where you're going to put that into your program, that takes a little bit of some smarts and stuff, but you can figure this out, and you can help someone help you figure this out. It's a useful tool. It's just another tool, but it's specific to limiting the joint stuff.
Well, it's interesting because we've seen the far end of the trends where, for years it's high volume becomes the trend, like 30 sets per body part, whatever, and that stays and it stays. Then we'll see the pendulum swing. Then it's all hit training, 1 set to failure.
Yeah.
And then it's always been interesting to me because when you see the pendulum swing, it's like, here's a group of these guys that were training hit style, Dorian style, DC style, whatever style you want to say. Mm-hmm. And then they switch. Then they start doing high volume and they make tons of progress. Sure. And then they crap on the other thing, but they don't understand they did the other thing for too long and they weren't integrating both. And the same thing happens the other way. Somebody would do a lot of big volume, then go to the higher intensity, low volume, make great progress. And I always kind of sit from afar and I thought, why haven't you figured out how to implement them both into like an annual plan?
Yeah.
That always, because when both of these camps say this, that also tells me that means there was at least a year where you weren't making progress.
Sure.
Because there was a reason why you changed. Lifters are very slow to change. To do a radical change, like here's my philosophy, hit training, to all the way over here, actually, it only takes a moment to make a decision, but usually they're going to think about
it's hard
it
to get there
for
to
a
that
year.
decision.
It's like, so you had a whole year
Pull the trigger.
where if you just understood them both.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's how I escaped that. Here's how I personally escaped that. I put an inordinate amount of emphasis on effort in this style, or that style. I constantly talk about effort. If you keep working hard at this style, you'll keep making progress at that style. That doesn't necessarily not work. You just have to put more and more and more effort in. And if you want to train this way, okay, that's fine. How do I get the most effort into that training? And if you want to do this, how do I get, and I escape all this, I believe in periodization. I think you're 100% right about that. You can use all of these tools in a rhythmical and rotational basis and get progress from all of them and stay pretty mentally, that novelty is helpful.
Well, I think that some exercises are just more prone to being used in certain ways, where, say, the tricep push down in your prime, if you're to do it hard and heavy, like heavy, you can't. You got to put a dip belt on, and somebody to hold you down.
Yeah, that's.
Or you're like, you know what? This is stupid. You need 5 warm-up sets to get to the weight. Like, maybe I'll just use less weight, go slower, flex harder, right? Because it just, some exercises just, like a bent over row is another one that's really kind of hard to super control. And some people, you can, some people will debate that, but I think that they end up training other things that they don't really think that they're training. If it's where some exercises just kind of lend themselves to different styles just by the nature of the movement. I liked
something you said earlier about having a reason to choose this exercise or that exercise. I think that's a very important point, Dave. I think that if you can't tell me why you're doing tricep extensions with the rope as opposed to one-arm dumbbell kickbacks for your tricep, if you can't tell me why, then you don't understand. You don't have an overall goal. You're just doing this or doing that, and you're hoping it works. Because each of those things have pros and cons, and they have advantages and disadvantages. And if you say, I chose this because it has disadvantages, or I didn't choose that because it has that disadvantage, like the tricep, that's a huge disadvantage, right? putting dumbbells around a dip belt, and then that's a huge disadvantage. So if you don't know those things about those exercises, it's hard to make the right choices, and you go, what should I do? But what you really should look at is all of your accessories. We have to do our main lifts. We have to do the core lifts, and that's what we have to do. But then for every single accessory that you choose, why did you choose that?
Or what's the
advantages and disadvantages that you're choosing this as opposed to all the other things you could do?
Well, I would say before you even plan it in the program, what do you want to accomplish in that spot? Right?
What do you want from it?
Yes.
That's why you choose it. What do I want from this? What do I expect this exercise to do? And also, what is it going to cost me? Again, I always get back to recovery. I can't escape it, because I see when we're talking about sets and reps and gyms and lifting, and I'm equating that with recovery equally. Those things to me are married, and they're welded together. And so when I choose an exercise, I think about the cost in recovery from that exercise. It may be the best stimulator for this part of the muscle. Okay. Now, can I, with everything else I'm doing, can I recover from that? And if I can't, then it would be better put in at a different point in time when I'm not doing so much other things. So you have to look at, you don't have to. But if you want to do it well, you look at what you're going to do and you choose based on what you want, and then you say, can I afford that? How can I recover from that? Because different tricep exercises put different strain on the elbow, and they work the triceps in a different way. So you choose one. You say, what's this going to do for me? And what do I have to do? to pay it back after I leave. Because a lot of people do the right things in the gym, and they're still stalemated. They're still plateaued. And it's not because they're not doing the right things in the gym. It's not because they don't want it bad enough. It's because they're not paying for it afterwards, and they don't make that connection. And so I always, when we're choosing exercises and we're designing a program for ourselves and we're saying, I'm going to do this exercise and not that one, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, maybe I want to choose this one because it's easier to recover from. And with everything else that I'm doing, I got a lot to recover from this. And so I'm not going to choose the very best one. I'm going to take the second best one because I can put that in and do these at the same time. And then later, when I'm not doing so much up here with these other things, and I'll have a little bit more recovery reserves, I can put that other exercise in. And these are things that are fun for strength coaches, and they are murder and horror and a nightmare for people that aren't strength coaches. They just want the strength coach to figure it out and tell them what to do. But for us, this is fun to put these things in and layer them and say, I'm going to do this because of this, and then this is why. Because at this point, we're also doing some conditioning over here. And that conditioning work on the sled or the prowler is going to cut into this. So I'm not going to choose that now. And when I don't do the prowler work or the sprints or the, I don't know, even ab work or something, then I'm going to do this. And that's fun for us. But man, it is a nightmare for regular people.
I think it's underrated for, is that the right word? Underrated for a lot of strength athletes, because I don't think they think about these things to the degree that they should. They might think...
Whose fault is that? That's our fault.
Yes.
We don't stress it enough.
Yes. So
go on, you're right.
Yeah, so if it's...
You are right.
They're training their squat feels good. Real good. You know, I can do an extra set, go 40 pounds heavier. I think they might stop and think, okay, now if I do this, I'll probably be a little bit more sore tomorrow, my recovery, but they're not thinking if I go 40 pounds more, how's this going to impact my deadlift day,
right,
or my next squat day? And if this is successful, how does it impact 4 weeks from now if I'm adding 5 more pounds each week leading into this? And then 5 weeks from now, theoretically, they're going to be 60 pounds over their best one competitive max.
Yeah.
And they don't think like,
what then?
Yeah, like what is the trade in the short term and the long term?
Yeah. And
are you willing to play that card? Sometimes you are. Sometimes things are just great. It's going really well. Mm-hmm. And though, even when they play the card, though, they don't, like if you play a card like that, like a big card like that, a lot of the times for me, it would be like, you know what? The rest of your training, you're done. You overplayed this hand.
Yeah.
So let's just kill the other shit.
It's hard to let go of that other shit, though.
Yeah. And then what's going to change?
That takes maturity, Dave.
Yes.
To say, no, I'm not going to do the rest. I've played this card, and I'm going to, it takes maturity. It takes some.
Well, it takes a lot of mistakes. It takes a lot of meets of your best triple being more than that you did in the meet. Mm-hmm. A lot of bomb outs, a lot of injuries. A lot of things you can look back on and say, you know what? That right there, that really good day shouldn't have been a good day.
That's a good teacher. People are afraid of failure now so much that the trial and error system, which is so good, it requires error to learn. You have to learn what not to do. And people are so desperately terrified of making any failure or giving the wrong answer, or that they're not afraid to do those failures and learn those lessons and go, hey, I'm never putting my hand on that hot stove again. But they don't reach out for the stove in the first place. And then learning becomes slower. You touch that stove, you learn fast. Never again. Done with that. Not doing that. But people, because I don't know why, and people that watch social media and know more about it than me could say, but I think that has something to do with it. Everybody's on display now in such a way that nobody wants to fail, and you learn a lot from failing. And if you aren't willing to look silly, and you Epictetus said something like, oh, I'm going to butcher it. But he said something about looking silly and not being afraid to learn from that. And boy, I wish I could pull that up in my head right now. It's a great quote. But if somebody wants to look this up, Epictetus said something about not being afraid to fail and not being afraid to look poor in your peers' eyes in an effort to improve yourself. And I don't know how he said it, but that's the meaning of it. That's the takeaway that I got from it. And so if you have such a pride that you can't be seen, with your pants down, then it's going to take you a long time to learn. You get pantsed in front of everybody, you're going to learn what got you into that, and you're not going to get into that again. I don't think ever. It's a quick way to learn, but it has its cost, right? In pride. And so if our real goal is to end up somewhere different down the road, and we let our pride get in our way, and believe me, I did, so I know all about this. If we let our pride get in our way, it's going to take us longer. If we can, transcend's a bad word. If we can overcome that protection that we want to protect, I got it. I'm good. I got this. And we go ahead and we try something and we fail. We flop. It's a quick lesson. All right. Well, how did I flop? Oh, I did this. I see now. Okay, I'll never do that again. And it's hard. It's hard to get kids to anybody. It's hard to get anybody to fail. And that's why it's part of what I do. I take people to failure. We fail all the time, and they learn from it, and they push at that. I take people to their edge all the time. You learn to trust yourself at the edge. You learn to come through at the edge, but you fail a lot too, because you're always trying for something you can barely do or might not be able to do. But that teaches you how to break through that. Hey, last time I was here, I only got 4 reps. Today, I have to get 5. All right, I got to walk in there knowing that same thing. I only got 4, and I'm supposed to get 6. I only got 4, so I got to at least get 5. And you have to face what you failed at every week in my training. And you got to come in and you got to outdo yourself, and you got to find a way to outdo yourself. And you can't be afraid to go right back to where you didn't make it. You did 4, and you tried 5, and you couldn't get it. Came back down on you. Well, all right, you get a week. You got a training effect from that. You eat, you sleep, you get your shit together, and you come back next week. And you're going to be right here again. You're going to walk right up to this. Here's this set, 3rd set. You got 4 last week. What's our goal this week? 5. And you have to face it. And that teaches you something about yourself real quick. And you do that over and over and over again, and you're not afraid of failure. You realize that failure is the gateway to success. Well,
failure and success are very subjective and very nuanced, right? To where there's a lot of people that just making it to the gym and training is a success for them,
sure,
right? To where we all know, because consistency is one of the main rules. Like if you want to get better, you have to be consistent.
Show up.
But my pushback on that is, okay, I've grown up in gyms, and every gym that I was ever in that was even slightly commercial in nature always had the 1 or 2 guys that were there all the time. Mm-hmm. Every morning at 7 a.m. They've been there every morning for 20 years, and they're no better than they were from the very first time I walked in there for 3 or 4 years. Very consistent, but no effort. The wrong effort. So consistency obviously is not enough. That's the bare minimum. And then there's...
You mean consistency in showing up?
Consistency in showing up.
Right. That's I'm talking about consistently facing your
it's
failure.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm getting to.
I'm talking. Okay, yeah.
Because anybody can be consistent, and then even where there's, I like to reframe that and say consistency with accountability. It's a different type of thing, because then that's, maybe you can't make it 4 times in this 1 week, but you got to combine 2 training sessions into 3, because you got to be accountable for whatever that's going to be. However it's going to be, you figure it out, to make sure it's all in there, and accountability in progressing, and moving forward. where training
4 reps to 5 this time.
4 reps to 5 or more time under tension. And I'm really big on trying to teach people how to auto-regulate their training. Yes, there needs to be a map. There needs to be some kind of global plan of here's this phase, here's this phase, here's this phase. But there's so many micro decisions you need to make. By the time you get to the gym, when you're in the gym, in the set, you know, if you're doing a set and you're doing even the sets that you're talking about and something just doesn't feel right, you might have to shift your shoulder or move your position to get it to feel better. All these little micro auto-regulated things are, to me, the difference between somebody that's good and somebody that's great, because they learn how to make these fine-tuned decisions while doing it, you know, instead of, okay, that went wrong, I'm going to fix it next time. Like, you get what I'm saying is that
maybe I'm not sure if I absolutely do, but keep telling me about
all right, so if it's a, I'll use an example of it. If it's a strength athlete, they go in the gym and it's your heavy bench day and you're expecting to do 420 for four sets of 5, whatever it's going to be, and you feel like ass just getting there, that you still go. I mean, you're still going through all the process.
Maybe
Shoulder,
you take a day off.
Maybe
and you show up the next day.
But that would be a change. That would be that auto regulation that I'm talking about. There's that, right?
Yeah.
Or you're in there and you're warming up and you're like, you know what? This is me. Give me a minute. And then you got to mentally shift to get in the right zone. Or this isn't happening. Then it's off. Or my shoulders are just too freaking tight, you know, or my lats are. Then you have to go do something else to get better. You make all these small decisions are made where people will get stuck in here's the program that they're following and do everything exactly as written and not know the pivot points to be able to make that optimal.
Yeah. So for me, in regard to what you said about that, my solution is, if you can't work out today, don't back off and do part of the workout. Go home. Really recover. If you can't come in today because you have something, your shoulder hurts, well, then let it unhurt for a day. You're not recovered. You didn't sleep well last time. Well, go home and sleep well tonight. My solution to that isn't to take the workout that was planned and say, well, I'm supposed to get 5 reps today, but I'm going to do sets of 3 today because that's all I can do. My solution is, I wonder why you can't do what's required of you in this progressive, we're moving this way. Why aren't you moving this way? Well, it's usually, it's not the program. Programs work. These programs are tried and true. You know, you do this week, you do this week, you know, they work. It's not the program. It might be someone's effort. That's the second possibility. Someone might not be trying hard enough. Okay, that might be, but it's almost always not those two. You know, you get good coaches and they give good programs.
So what you just said is a pivot, like I'm talking about, to where resting was better than 3s.
Yeah.
You said that's what I'm talking about, right. Where if somebody may define training hard as doing the 3s, not resting.
No. That's not going to move you forward. It's just going to cut into more recovery burden. So the two things, the coach gives a good program, the athlete says, I'll do my best. That only leaves one thing to be the problem, Dave, and it's recovery.
Yes.
And there are 6 things that I put into recovery. But, you know, so if it's something you didn't do right outside the gym, it's not the program inside the gym, it's not your effort inside the gym. What's going wrong is you're getting a divorce. What's going wrong is you're stressed at your work, and you got 2 coworkers that you got to deal with, and what's going wrong is you didn't sleep. You stayed up because life is exciting, and you wanted to go live life, and you stayed up, and you got 4 hours or 5 hours of sleep instead of 6 or 8. What's going wrong is you didn't eat enough. You're not supplying and oversupplying the fuel. What's going wrong is you didn't get rid of your stress. You're still carrying a bunch of stress. You didn't do anything to decompress. What's going wrong is you didn't do anything to recharge yourself. These are the 6 things.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't do anything that builds your spirit back up, that makes you feel good inside and like you want to go to the gym Happy people train harder, period. You can have an opinion about that, and that's fine, but it's still true, no matter what your opinion is. When you're miserable, it's hard to train hard. It is much easier to train hard. You can still do it. People do it miserable. But you train, it's easy to train when you feel great. It's easy. And one of the things that helps you is getting your life in order outside the gym. Taking care of the problems with your ex-wife. Getting enough time to see your kid. Paying attention to your bills. Getting them paid. You know, these things they weigh on you, and they eat away at your recovery reserves. They eat it away, and nobody wants to think about it. But do you give out good programs, Dave? Do you give out the best programs you know how to give out? I believe you do.
Mm-hmm.
I try. I don't give shit away. I give good programs away. I try my best for people. I give my best advice to each person. Do you have people? So that's number one. It's not the program. Number two, do you have people to come to you that are sincere and that they really want to improve and they have a lot of heart and desire?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have that? All right, so that's two things. It has to be. Number three, it has to be recovery. And there are 6 things in recovery. And I feel bad because I just keep pounding recovery, but it's true.
Well, I think it's pounding. I think where we fail as educators is we're not pounding the aspects of recovery, kind of as you just laid out, to where one of the questions that I'm frequently asked is, how can you get into a better mental state before a heavy lift?
Mm-hmm.
And I back out of that and say, the first way to get into the best mental state before a heavy lift is to declutter all the shit in your life.
Excellent.
Right? Because if you're going through that training session and you can't get the fight that you're having with your significant other out of your head, then how are you going to flip this switch at the last second to be able to do this big lift? Maybe you do, but I'm going to argue and say
People
you really
can,
didn't.
But it's hard.
I'm going to say you really didn't.
That's hard.
You know, you might have compartmentalized it, put it out there, but what about all the sets leading up to it that weren't optimized because of this? And sometimes all those little things are not that hard to organize and fix, but they'd just rather not because,
Maybe.
you know,
Sometimes it's hard, but you're right. I think
Yes.
you're right, Dave. I agree with you. And you said,
well, they want
you said
secret
it
sauce. Like, how long should I look into the candle flame to visualize what the lift should exactly look like? Like, well, you can do that, but if you don't have the ability to control all the other factors, you're no way are you going to be able to let a thought come in and go out.
Yeah.
That's that's one of the things that drives me absolutely insane. Is
it's
that
hard. And this week I had a guy out in Washington State, and he had just a fabulous workout, just a banner workout. He crushed it. And I mean, you have these every once in a while. You have it where you can't do anything wrong. And we put on 5 more pounds, and he couldn't do anything wrong. And you know what we did? We put on 5 more pounds, and he couldn't do anything wrong. Now, he missed 2 reps last week at 10 pounds less. And now he's crushing through 10 pounds more. Crushing it. And he did. He crushed them all. And so we were done. And I said, what do you attribute that remarkable success to? And he said, well, you know, I really hydrated because I pushed that. I really hydrated, Jim, and I got a lot of good food. And I said, okay. And we kept talking. And we kept talking. And he said, and you know what? He was going through a divorce. And it got settled this week. Everything's kind of working out. And he said, and my ex and I are talking like people. The only thing we used to be able to talk was about our kid. Now we're having a conversation. And he said, so his life's gone better, right? And he said, and I'm just not getting caught up in the work at drama. He runs a place.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not getting caught up in the drama. I'm just letting that happen. And we keep talking. And he said, you know, and this week I really made a conscious effort. So do you see how many things are going here?
Yeah.
And then I'm not done. He goes, I also decided that I need to spend a lot less time on social media. And so I cut that out a little bit. And I quit listening to the news. And I cut that out. And then at the end, he said, I finally really think I see what you mean about the whole program. And how, and he had a workout that was astonishing to me. He just crushed it. We do 6 sets of 6, and he got all but the last 2. He got 5 and 5 on the last 2 sets. And so we were going to repeat that. And we're like set number 3. And he goes, Jim, can I move up? I feel really good today. And I'm like, okay, I like that confidence. Go ahead and put it on. He puts it on. He keeps crushing. He goes, I think I could go up another 5 pounds. And I'm like, all right, let's see what happens. And he crushed that. And that's a 10-pound jump out of nowhere. And he first was telling me about his food, his water. Right?
Yeah.
And that's good, and that's important. And he pushes hard. He didn't gain any weight this week, but he gained 2 pounds last week. He's like 282, I think, something like that. I can't remember. But he's putting on weight. He's doing good. And so that's part of it. But another big part of it is everything else in his life is going well. Oh, and you know what else he said? I went out on a date with the girl. Right? Look at all these things that don't have jack shit to do with the gym, or do they? And they all happen in this week, and he blows 10 pounds higher than he failed at for 2 reps 7 days ago, 6.5 days ago. Now, did he get that much stronger? Well, yeah, he did. He moved weight he could not move last week, and he moved a shitload more of it. It was a great success for him. And so I said, hey, write me a paragraph, send it to me about how you think this happened. Why this didn't happen for no reason. It's not a fluke. You are doing something right. Put these things down. And he wrote some really important things to me about it. But he said in there that he's realizing, he's coming to this synthesis of the gym is not just the gym. If I want to be my best, if I just want to work out, get healthy, get stronger, get some muscles, that's fine. I don't have to do any of this other stuff. But if I want to outdo myself and do stuff that other people can't do, and maybe set a record, then I see, Jam, how all this other stuff is directly connected. And it made more sense to me, right? And that's and if I can get people to that place where every time they're doing an effort in a gym and they finish and they wipe off, they think, oh yeah, I got to pay for this later. That's in the back of their mind. I got to eat. I got to sleep. I got to get all 7 liters of fluid in every day. That's a success for me as a coach. He's understanding it. And he's not only understanding it, he's reaping. I mean, I can't remember how many times, not too many, David, not too many times did I have a jump of 10 pounds in a session on my 6x6 program. Not too many times. And he just crushed it. And it was good. He was every time we grade the stroke and we grade the effort, and he just, anyways, this is my effort to pound this education home about recovery and workouts. And workouts are fun to talk about. And when we begin, we love new exercises, and we love being in the gym, and we love learning how to do stuff. And this is not very sexy.
No, there's 2 components to the story that you're talking about here that stand out to me. Is the first is a lot of those stressors were removed, right? So it allowed for that better recovery. The second component would be more of the future component of how do those stressors actually stay in or increase, but his ability to manage and to deal with those become better, because life does happen, and your ability to absorb chaos is no different than training. You have to build up the ability to be able to process and manage all those things, because you can't always reduce all of those things, because A, that's not life, B, you're mentally not getting stronger, and then C, you're going to avoid anything that you think is going to be negative or could be a failure. So it's there's you get what I'm saying there?
To your point here, I think he's probably not going to have another week like this where things go this well, but he sees the connection now.
But that's the key thing.
He clearly sees that this matters. that my whole life matters, my diet matters, my sleep matters, my stress reduction matters, my rejuvenation matters. He's seeing how, and he can affect something in all those. He can't affect what his ex-wife does, but he has some influence on it, and he has a whole bunch of influence on how he responds to it.
Of course.
And so now that he sees, I'm hoping, and I'm sure, I mean, the light bulb went off for sure. I'm hoping that he sees that even though things go bad, he has to do something to try to keep them from affecting his performance.
Mm-hmm.
So even if his kid gets sick or something, God forbid, and that's a stressor, and he's worried about his kid, and he has to go work out. It's time to work out. It's Monday, and he will, but he can understand that he's a whole person, and all these things work together, and more of it that he can stack in his favor, the better. So he might not be able to get 8 hours of sleep, but if he can get 7.5, that's better than 6. And he might not be able to compartmentalize his worry about his job or his daughter or his stuff. But if he can work on it, the better he can do, the more he can expect in here. And this is so crystal clear to me that, like I said, when I'm working out, I'm thinking about my recovery. And I just think that we've done a bad job. I have done a bad job in the past. I talked about the workout and working hard, and I pushed people hard. And you know what I did, Dave? I taught them how to be mentally stronger and push their bodies harder and harder and harder. And I didn't teach them enough about this, about recovery and food and sleep. And so I taught them, and I did a disservice to them because they learned how to push themselves harder, and they did. And they just dug a deeper hole, some of them.
Some,
Yeah.
right? Because it's, there still is a problem.
Because I didn't stress the way I do now that if you do this, you had better do
So I don't think that's a bad thing, because if it's stressed in reverse, right? So they're not training hard in the gym to begin with, but they're not recovering.
That's usually the problem.
Yeah, and they're not
they're
not recovering from them not training hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point. So most people are nowhere near running out of recovery because they're not training for crap in the gym.
Yeah.
They're babies, and they're on their way to becoming men and supermen. But that's not their problem. Recovery's not their problem. You can do that for 4 years, 3 years. You can just go to the gym, show up, learn how to train harder and harder and make gains. And then you're at that 3-year, 300, 350-pound benchmark, and you're done for the rest of your life. That's your plateau. Because at that point, you have to start thinking about this. And so you're right. Most people need just to learn how to train harder in the gym.
Oh, I believe 100%.
And then, but we're talking, I like to talk about like us.
Well, it's also, I mean,
like
it's
to talk about high-end strength and high-end performance, and I'm just attracted to that.
But
It's not all I do.
Being in the gym's great for a lot of different reasons too. It's also a barometer based upon how your life is going. So if my training all of a sudden isn't going as it should, to me, that's my indicator.
You're saying what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's like, and that's where my brain goes first. Like, okay, now wait a minute, what's going on?
Excellent, yeah.
Like my sleep's on track, nutrition hasn't changed. This is what is wrong here? What's out of whack?
And you work it backwards.
And you work it back, and you're like, most of the time it's like, oh man, it can't be that.
Yeah,
and you're
maybe.
like, it's that. Like, are you serious?
Yeah, maybe.
Then, you either eliminate it or you find a better way to deal with it. To work through it, to move forward.
And none of this is like there's these. I don't think there's any thresholds. This is and I don't even think this is steps. I think this is just a slow, smooth ramp. You can just, get there little by little by little. You can take half steps and quarter steps, but the more of it you do, the better it gets. And I don't think there's any reason why a beginner shouldn't learn this, even though they don't need to know it, because it's not essential for them to recover because they're doing 20-pound curls.
I agree.
But
100%.
if they learn it right off the bat and it becomes part of their, that by the time, they won't have that plateau. They'll slide right through it and just keep on going. And they'll bench 300, 325, 350, 375. And I don't know where they're going to stop, but they're going to know how to treat their body right. And I don't know. I guess we beat this to death, Dave. But it's super important. And I love that you said that we as coaches don't stress it enough, because I agree with you. And sometimes I feel bad because it's like all I talk about. It's not all I talk about, but I talk about it so much that I feel like perhaps I may overdo it. But that might be okay. If most coaches are underdoing it and I'm overdoing it, it brings the average a little bit back to where it should be.
I believe so. I believe so. I mean, the other part is the other thing I don't think we push out there enough is to help people to ask better questions. You know, where we still live in this world where everybody wants to know what's the best exercise to increase their bench. Mm-hmm. You know, and that was what it was 50 years ago. Sure. You know, and it's never
what one
that.
thing can I do?
Yes. Like
I want the one thing.
Yeah, the one thing.
Yeah.
And that comes back onto the educators. Like I'm a big person in personal accountability, right? So if it's anybody that's asking me questions that are poor, then I've done a shitty job of, you know, predisposing them to a position to be able to ask better questions. I failed. They didn't fail. I failed. Okay. You know, I didn't open the door effectively for them to be able to to ask that. So that's on me. You know, I can control those type of things. Most things, you know, I think we have control over most things if we really think about it. You know, there's a lot of things that are outside our control
our hands are on the wheel.
Most definitely, but we like to bitch about the things we don't have control over, you know, to the expense of not taking care of the things we do have control over, which is...
We have a lot of say in how our life plays out.
Oh, yes.
And we have 100% say in how we respond to everything that happens to us. We choose our response. 100%. We do not choose everything that happens to us. But once it happens to us, now we get to choose our response. And there's your accountability. Come not full circle, but it's complete accountability in my response to things. How will I respond to this insult or this blessing? What am I going to do? One of my favorite philosophers is not because of what he says, but the way he writes. He writes a lot of times. He says, "What then?" at the end of something he said, and I love saying that. What then? So okay, you lost your job. All right, what then? All right, you hit a new PR in the gym. All right, what then? That's what's important. I mean, that's super important, and it's the only thing we have 100% control over. Everything else we have maybe some influence, maybe a little control, maybe a lot of control, but the 100% control is our response to the things that befall us or that we make happen or everything. Our response is ours and ours alone, but we don't think that and we don't act that way, and we are derelict in that duty to be responsible for our response.
It's interesting because it's when you said that what then, you know, is the way that I absorbed that freaking decades ago was you know, somebody, I don't know who I was talking to at the time, but it was just, you know, I'm bitching and complaining and it's like, and
now what? Right. Yeah.
And then it's just like, and then it's like, all right, fuck, I guess I just need to figure something out.
People stop there though. I like to listen to at least a little bit every day of ideas that I disagree with. And I want to see how people are speaking and thinking about things that I completely disagree with. So I do this. And what I hear most inundatively is they just complain. And they love to complain. And they love to have somebody tell them about their complaining, and they talk about how they complain, and then it has absolutely nothing to do with what then. It's just, here we are, let's complain about it and let's stay right here. What then and what next and so what never gets asked. They're just like, hey, don't you hate this? Yeah, I hate that. You know what else I hate? Yeah, I hate this about that too. What do you hate? I hate this too. And hey, look, we're in a club of hating this. But what then? So what? Now what? And? Yeah, you hate it. Okay, I got that. You hate it and? Nothing. nothing. It ends right there, and that's super safe. That's
Well, it's super safe. I also
You don't
think
have to
that
go- you
it's
have to think.
exhausting, though.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
if you're trying to
It
figure
exhausts
out,
me.
yeah,
Listen to 'em.
if you're trying to figure out what you think on an issue, whatever the issue is, you know, I've always explained it this way: as somebody that owns a business, if I have an issue, I need to know both sides of this issue.
Yeah.
And beyond the I get the bitching, but I need the undersurface of what's going on, and that's fucking exhausting because you got to get through all the
work.
bitching, the complaining, and all this, and then figure out like where did this all stem from.
And then there's more work after you're there.
Yeah, because then you got to
What am I going
what
to
is it?
do? I need a plan. I need an action.
Yeah.
Or do I just complain?
Well, most people just complain.
Exactly.
And then that's the exhausting part is like, what are you exactly complaining about?
Well,
Do
they'll
you
tell you
even
what they're
know?
complaining about.
Well, they do, but usually it's not what they think it is.
Agreed, David.
You know, so you start digging and peeling the onion back, and it's like,
Right,
what
they're
is this really about?
I don't understand it completely, but I'm accepting it. People love to complain. I don't understand it, but I accept it. And so when I get a complainer, I try to shortcut it. I try to stop it. I'm like, okay, I see that you don't like that. Don't tell me that again. I know you don't like that. You don't like that this is the way it is. You don't like the way your mom's treating you. You don't like the way your boss is treating you. Got it. What else do you have to say about that? And then they will circle back.
Oh, yeah.
And they'll try to go. And I'm like, no, you already told me that. You already told me you don't like it. We're already past that. I know you don't like it.
So I will have it.
And then they have to, and then you know what they say, Dave? Too many times. They say, well, I haven't really thought about it.
Two of the other things that happen too is they won't bring that up to you again because you didn't fall for the tactics.
Perhaps, yeah,
right?
perhaps, yeah.
The other one is
complain with them.
yeah, there's that. I'll have,
Endlessly.
you know, people will complain about other people, you know, to me.
Of course.
And usually my recourse to that was, well, what did so-and-so say when you talked to them about it?
Never talk.
Then it stops.
I never talked to them.
Just stops. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, then I suggest that you speak to them about that. And done. Right? And then they don't bring it up again.
Yeah. These are life skills.
They are.
These are life skills, but they're also
They're recovery skills if you want to go back to what you were talking about.
I do want to. And you know, learning how to manage your life well will improve your training. And I can be criticized for this, and I will accept the criticism that, JM, you can't bring everything back to the gym. And I agree. But yes, I can. Because everything that I learned about life, not everything, but many excellent lessons that I learned about life are applicable in the gym, and I learned them in the gym by accident. I'm the person that I am now. And I know there are people that are going to hear this, that are going to be like, you're a shitty person, JM, because that's how they knew me. But I'm a better person than I was. And I'm a better person than I was, perhaps when they knew me, because of things I learned pushing myself in the gym to be better in the gym. And being a better man, oh, by the way, that's what this guy said in his paragraph. He said, I understand what you mean about being a better man and how things outside the gym and make me a better person in the gym and how they go back and forth. But I'm a better man because of wanting to be better in the gym. I often tell people I didn't learn patience because I wanted to be patient. I learned patience because I wanted to bench more. I didn't learn discipline because I wanted to be a disciplined person. I learned discipline because I wanted to bench more. So there's this point of crystallization in the gym, because if you want to be your best, I mean your best. I don't mean, and maybe you want to be the best. That might be something too. And that's a whole nother level of commitment to things and changing the man that you are. But that desire to be the best man you can be in the gym, all of that can come out of the gym too. And you can be a better listener, a better conversationalist, a better lover, helper, friend, worker. All of those things, all those disciplines, all that ability to focus, all that ability. And I did it backwards. I should have. I should. I shouldn't should on people, even myself. But it would have been nice if I wanted to be a better person because I wanted to be a better person for other people. That's not how I did it. I'm lucky that I wanted to be better at bench pressing, and I had to become a better man. I wasn't good enough of a man to do what I did, and so I had to be better. And I learned these things. I learned concentration. I learned attention. I learned discipline, commitment, desire. I learned all that only because I wanted to bench press more. And that is a very superficial reason to end up where I am. And I'm super lucky. But if I can do that, and this is what I try to do with people, I try to say, let's do this thing you want to do in the gym. And then I try to sneak in, I try to smuggle these lessons out of the gym with them. And sometimes it works. A lot of times it works. And I believe in that. And I believe that that's a better way for me to be with people. I'm a pretty good coach in the gym. I can take people and get the best out of them. But what I want to do more than that is, in the process of doing that, sneak that out of the gym and make them a better man, maybe, or woman. And I hope I can do that. It seems like I can do that sometimes, and I try really hard to do that. And even if I do it a little bit, even if I sneak a little bit of this out, I think that's probably better than anything I make them lift. Hey, you lifted 500 pounds, now you lift 550. Good for you. But hey, you relate to people better. You care about people more. I care about strength. And now, in my life, I care about strength of character. And I am trying very hard to make myself stronger as a person for other people. And that's as hard as anything I did in the gym lifting. But it's strength. It's just, how many people can I help? How many people can I carry? How many people can I tolerate their bullshit? And the stronger person can do that. Dave, who in our society can carry the weakest in our society? Can the weak carry themselves? No. Can the medium people carry the weak people? No, because then they both go down, because they're barely carrying themselves. So who among us will carry the weakest? It has to be the strongest. The strongest have to carry the weakest, or they don't get carried. And if that's okay with you, let them go down. Fuck them. Or screw them. That's okay. That's one. I don't take that attitude. I take the attitude of, it's on me. If I can make myself stronger, I can carry more people. I'm going to make a t-shirt. This is my t-shirt here that I made last year. I'm going to make one this year. And I think I might have said this before on this program, this podcast. But I'm going to say it again. I'm going to make a t-shirt that says, it is time to sink or swim. Make your choice. Right? It's time to sink or swim. Make your choice. And then on the back, it's going to say, if you cannot swim, put your arms around my neck, and I will swim us to shore. And that takes a strong man to want to do that. And I want to be that strong man someday. I want to be that strong, not just to swim myself to shore. I can do that. I would like to be stronger because I'm interested in strength. Where did I get interested in strength? In the gym. I love strength. I love strong things. I love strong men. I love strong. And now I want to be so strong of character. Maybe one day, I hope. I'm trying. I'm training. I actually trained for this, by the way. That I can do that for some people. That I can carry some weak people. And be so strong that the things that I learned in the gym and the strength that I got from learning that will come out of the gym and be able to do some good for some people out here. Now that sounds incredibly high-minded, and I feel a little bit pretentious saying that, but it's true. That's what I spend my time doing. I train myself. I watch these videos of cops arresting people who are really, really mean to the cops. And they stay calm and they stay cool and they treat these people good. And I think to myself, at what point would I lose it on this person? You know, what would I say? What could I say? And I try to beat a cop. And I'm listening to these drunks and assholes and entitled young girls thinking they can just do whatever they want. And they're just horrible to these cops. And these cops are not tasering them, and they are not throwing them on the ground. Now, sometimes they have to, right? It gets to that because they're that bad. But I listen to the cops, and I think I could say this then. And this person says this, and I'm training myself to tolerate insult, insolence, aggression, violence, because only the strong people can handle that. And some of these cops don't handle it too well. But many of them are like heroes to me. I'm just like, how in the world did he put up with that snot-nosed little girl driving the BMW and just endangering everyone and wrecking and just not feeling bad about it? And they treat them okay. They treat these people good, and they take care of them. And they take an immense amount of abuse because they are strong of character. And that's part of the training that I do. And then I put myself around people on purpose that are weaker of character than me. And that sounds pretentious too. I put myself around challenging people. I put myself near challenging people, and I let them challenge me. And I do better and better and better. This week, I got a call from a dude in Pakistan who tried to steal my money. Tried to scam me. And I got mad at first. I'm like, this is not Walmart. You're not a Walmart. What's my account number? And, you know, like, you got a strong accent. And I'm thinking, this. And finally I said, you're trying to steal from people. You're trying to steal from people. This is not legit. And he's like, fuck you, motherfucker. And he's yelling at me and everything. And I'm like, okay, all right, fuck me. But let me tell you something. I feel bad for you. That's what I said. I said, I feel bad for you because you're in a situation that you believe that you have to steal from people to make your living and to take care of your family. And I bet you have a family. And I bet you're in a place. I knew he was from Pakistan because I said, hable más despacio, which means speak more slowly in Spanish, because I really couldn't hear him. And he goes, I'm not from Mexico. I am from Pakistan. And so he's from Pakistan. I'm like, you must be really poor because you got a hard job. You're going to steal from people in America, and I don't blame you. We got too much. You got nothing. But your life must be really hard. I feel bad for you because my life isn't. And I can see why you're doing what you got to do. I'm not mad at you. I'm going to report you because that's what I got to do. That's the right thing for me. But I don't blame you. And I'm sad that you have to do this. And he starts talking to me. We start having a conversation, Dave. This guy was going to steal from me. We have about a 10-minute conversation. He lives with his mom and his wife and his daughter. He lives with 3 women. And then we talked about that. And he's only been working at this job for 20 days. And he said, I believe in karma. And I'm afraid of doing this to people because I know karma's going to bite me in the ass. And I said, well, I hope it doesn't, but maybe you can find a way. But here's what I can give you. I can't do anything for you. You're too far away from me. But I want you to know that I feel bad for you. And I wish you didn't have to do this. But I'm not mad at you. You're doing what you have to do to take care of your family. And that's noble and that's good. But in the course, you're hurting other people. But you're not hurting people that can't give you a little money if you stole it from them. If you stole some of my money, I'd be okay. I'd still eat. I still have running water that's clean in my house. I still flush my shit away with running water that is clean to drink. I got a box in my house that's full of food. It's cold too. It's full of food. I don't know. I don't know what your life is like, and I'm sorry for you. But I hope you don't have to do this much longer, and I hope karma doesn't get to you. And the guy said, I'm sorry. Sorry I called you a name, and we hung up. I said, I wish I could do something for you, but just know that there's a guy out here, and I'm going to think about you all day long. There's nothing I can do for you. I wish there was, but I'm sorry for you. And that's it. That's all I did. And so I turned a guy who was trying to steal from me and called me a motherfucker, told me to go fuck myself, motherfucker. to a guy that was like, hey, I'm sorry I said that to you. And anyway, we said some things to each other, right? And it was totally different. And I'm not a great person for doing that. And he's not a bad person for doing what he did. But that situation turned from me being angry with him, and my initial response was, hey, you're trying to steal from me. You're a thief. And I caught him, and I was like, I was mad, right? And then I said one thing, I feel sorry for you. And then everything changed. And I don't think I would have done that 3 months ago. I don't think I could have. I would have just told him off. I would have said things to him that are true. He's not a good person, right? But I don't know if he is or isn't. He's doing something bad. But anyways, 3 months ago, I don't think I would have been able to overcome that anger at him for trying to steal from me, right? Here's a dude, I don't even know him. He's calling from Pakistan. He wants money out of my account.
How often do you talk to these guys that are spammers?
Every time I can. I love it. I love when someone tries to sell me something. I'm like, where are you at? Where are you from? And they try to keep selling me, and I keep trying to ask them questions about them because I'm not buying.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to spend time with these people, and I'm going to try to make their day a little bit nicer.
You're a little different than I, because I will, not all the time, but say 20% of the time, I'll answer. But see, I try to sell them power. I try to sell them power racks. I try to sell them.
That'd be fun.
I try to sell them my stuff.
Good.
So I flip it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I was like, hey, to talk to them. I'm like, hey, by the way, so what's your
nothing to sell?
Yeah, what's your credit card number? I can send these out to you right now. So I try to flip the script on them, and it's fun for me.
That would be fun. Yeah. This for me is simply a challenge. It's just a workout. This guy was just a workout. He would just okay, let's see if you can handle this. I handled it pretty well. This is the best I've ever done, I think.
Yeah.
I got a guy to say he was sorry to me. So these are again, selfishly, I'm trying to make myself better. This guy presents himself to me, and I use him to try to get better. He was a workout.
Yeah.
And that may be selfish on my part, but maybe I made his day a little bit better.
Let's take a bathroom break right now, because I got to go to the bathroom. And guys, while we're taking this break, like the podcast, leave a comment, subscribe, or leave a review for the podcast. We'll be back. You guys are selecting Merrick for your telehealth platform needs. They have a couple different ways that they go about doing this. The first is through a self-selected experience. So there's a table talk panel, which is the full panel. That would be the panel that I personally get twice a year. That's checking everything. You name it, it's all there. The other panel is a checkup panel with a guided optimization. You're connected with a patient care coordinator, and the patient care coordinator will meet with you to determine what your needs are, thing to be able to help optimize your health or mitigate without judgment. So the discount code again is Table Talk Merrick Health for all your hormone optimization and performance needs. Today's episode is brought to you by Element, a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything that you need and nothing that you don't. In other words, no sugar, no artificial coloring, no artificial ingredients, no gluten, no fillers, and no BS. With Element, I love the watermelon. The watermelon tastes freaking awesome. I drink 1 pack every day, no matter what. People that train out here, it's sitting out here for them all the time. The boxes don't last very long. Right now, Element is offering Table Talk listeners a free sample pack with any purchase. That's 8 single serving packages free with any Element order. Get yours at drinkelement.com/Table Talk. The deal is only available through the link in the description. The other thing is, if you don't like it, you can just give it away to a salty friend, and Element will give you a 100% refund. No risk, money back guarantee. Head over to drinkelement.com/Table Talk. The Swiss Symposium 2023. Yes, we are bringing this back to Columbus again. The date is October 20 and 21, Columbus, Ohio, Hilton. It's the same location it was last year. If you head over to the website, there's a big banner that links directly to Swiss. There's also a link in the description box so you can see who the presenters are as we are booking them for the symposium. The symposium's been going on for 20 years. It's, in my opinion, probably a little biased, but in my opinion, one of the best symposiums when it comes to strength and conditioning, sport medicine, therapy, physical therapy. Right now, the admission is 38% off or 48% off. Don't know. I'm not looking. I'm just kind of looking at the camera right now, but it's the early bird rate. That rate is until July 1st. So now is the best time for you to sign up. When you go to register, there's 3 different ways that you can register for the symposium. There's the general admission, which gets you into all the different lectures that you want to go to. The caveat is there's 3 or 4 lectures going on at the same time. So the second option allows you to purchase the videos of all the lectures for you to be able to watch at a later time. So that allows you and gives you access to everybody that's presenting if there's 2 people presenting at the same time that you would really like to see. The format that those are in is, it's a streaming service. So it's if you've ever purchased a training course from anybody before, it's very similar to that. So you log in and then there's all the presentations that are there. You just click, you watch, you stream. It's how it works. The third option is the VIP option. And included in that is the Sunday after the symposium. A limited number of people will be coming out to our gym, the S5 compound at Elite FTS, with a handful, maybe a little bit more of the presenters that are there, just to train, to hang out, have some barbecue, have a good time. And that, again, is limited on the attendance. It's already 50% sold out, or 50% of the spots left, depending on how you want to look at it. Go to the link in the description. We'll have more information about the Swiss throughout the podcast as we move forward. We have a lot of the presenters booked for the podcast, so we'll be talking more about it. We'll see you there. All right, guys, we're back. So I assume that you liked the podcast and you left a comment and you went and left a review for the podcast. So you got to prompt these people to help support the show. What I wanted to do is go through your Instagram, because I think people should follow your Instagram for one thing.
I do too, Dave. You're right about that.
And I was going through it a little bit this morning because I wanted to take down some ideas of topics to discuss. And I thought, you know what would be really cool is to just go to your Instagram,
okay,
and look at some of these posts and then just discuss them. And
very good, Dave. That sounds exciting.
we'll just go with more is not better, only better is better.
Yeah.
And, there wasn't a whole lot of narrative in this one.
Oh, you're showing it to people.
Yeah, so right there. So go down.
Those are my cats.
Actually, go back to the cats. So we're on that.
Yeah, those are my babies.
All right.
They teach me about Zen and love.
All right, so
every day.
Has neutral.
And peace and tranquility.
How many cats do you have?
7.
They also teach you about fighting.
A little bit.
Are they indoor, outdoor?
They are. They have a kitty door.
Okay.
Come and go. They do not need to be with me. They choose to be with me.
I got 4. I got one that stays in the house all the time. I got one that's a serial killer for certain, and the other 2, which I don't know where they are half of the time, but I like to watch them, stalk birds, whatever they are.
They're amazing. They're so good at killing. I've read that they don't try very hard. They only score 3 out of 10, but they don't worry. They give up very easily because they know that with a little bit more effort, they'll get one. 3 out of 10 is all they get, but that's more than enough to feed them. So they give up easy because they're so good at what they do.
All right, go back to the Instagram. It's easier to look up there than it is to look here.
Yeah.
Go to the, actually go to that first one, because I was reading about that one, the 5, 10, 20 direct proportion, how many obstacles, because this we talked about a little bit, but expand on that.
Sure. Well, so this is just when you pursue something, your plan is that you're going to go from point A to point B smooth sailing. That's the plan. Every plan is that way. But no plans work out that way. There are always obstacles. Things are going to come up in your way. And so, number one, we should predict that because it will happen. The question is, how many obstacles will it take for you to quit on the thing that you said you wanted so bad? And for some people, it is very low. They will quit almost as soon as they can find something that will be an obstacle so that they have an excuse not to achieve. It's almost as if the first thing that came across their path was enough to stop them from pursuing their goal. And then for other people, it's several. And for some people, they'll keep fighting all the way home. And that could be whether they get it or not. And I think in the post, I said that when someone comes against hopeless odds and they keep trying and they keep trying, very few of those people, very few, who come up against hopeless odds will achieve it because it's hopeless. But even more precious few do achieve it, right? They come up against something hopeless and they overcome it. We make a big deal about them. We love those people. But we also love the people that come up against hopeless odds and keep trying and fail because they kept trying. So I think in the post I said, this is telling about what we value. We not only value victory, we certainly value it, and so do I. But we have a value, people like us do, at least. We have a value for fighters. We have a value for people that keep trying. Even if it's hopeless, they keep trying. Chris Hedges says, I do not fight fascists because I believe I will win. I fight fascists because they are fascists. We love fighters. Some people do. Some people respect fighters whether they win or lose. And so that tells you something. And in the post, I believe I mentioned that I have begun to praise and reward effort as much or more than victory. I love it when people do what they're supposed to do, and I praise that. You did good, good job, well done, you made it. But I praise people for trying hard, at least that much, and maybe even more. And that can be more motivating. As coaches, if we understand this value that people that are fighters, we value the fight. We value the fight. The outcome, So I praise the fight more than the outcome.
That becomes this is something that I thought, I don't want to say too much about, but I thought deeply about, because is there a point to where quitting is the best option?
Yeah, the dead horse. Sure.
And so there's, but that becomes, I don't believe you can answer that question if you don't know if the person or yourself is in this for the outcome or the journey, right? Because it's, there's things that I've wanted to accomplish that I've been working on for decades that I believe will happen, right? Obviously I would keep, but after like 3 decades or whatever, you start wondering. So you got to start asking different questions. Like this is where this depth thought comes, like, well, why spend more time when it could be something else?
Yeah.
Or is the outcome what I'm really looking for, or is it the process that I'm in it for?
You're bringing up something they call the lost cause fallacy. And it means that you keep sinking more and more money into something that will never, ever produce because you've already sunk so much into it. So I've already invested in this, and I'm not going to give up now, and it's never going to pan out, right? And so it's a lost cause, and it's a fallacy to keep putting money into that if the outcome is the important thing. But I'm going to say,
I got one, yeah.
But I'm going to say something provocative now that I'm sure people can take issue with, and I'll be willing to talk about it, defend it. I don't believe the outcomes matter. I believe the journey is all that matters. Now, I'm saying that overly. Of course, the journey isn't all that matters. Nothing is all or nothing, right? But I'm going to say it that way. I'm going to say that the outcome doesn't matter. That it is the journey that matters. And if people want me to soften that, I will. I will say the journey matters more than the outcome. And if that is true, there is no such thing as the lost cause fallacy, because you keep enjoying and fighting the journey. This is that value for fighters that we have. You saw Cool Hand Luke. He just keeps getting back up. Right, in the movie,
yeah,
he's getting beat up, and he's never going to win that fight. And people are saying, "Stay down," and it's painful to watch him get back up. And the guy that's beating the shit out of him doesn't even want to hit him again. He's like, "Come on, stay down," and he knocks him down again, and he gets up again, and he's like, "Oh," and the guy's feeling bad for beating the shit out of him. And he's like, "Just stay down, please stay down," and then boom, he's down again, and he gets up again. And we value that. Some of us value that. We value the fight. We value the journey. And the outcome isn't as important.
Does it matter what we value if it's because it's what that person values?
No, I'm talking about you and I.
Yeah.
People like us is what I mean by we. I mean, people like us have an affinity for fighting and for fighters and for trying hard. It's the Don Quixote effect. To dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to strive with your last ounce of courage, to dream the impossible dream. It's a great song, but there's something that works for me in that. That works for me. I will pursue that, even if I don't get to it. The value is in shooting to be good, not being good. The value is in trying to improve yourself, not being improved. Now, there is, of course, value in accomplishing our dreams, right? There's, of course. I'm just saying it's not as important to me and to some people like me to care more about the outcome than the journey. And this is an ends versus means discussion that's been going on for a lot. I've come down clearly on the means.
Or is it easier for some just to keep fighting because that's what they know best than it is to actually quit and walk away? Because to quit and walk away would be hard if it's the Cool Hand Luke and they just keep getting up because that
they value the fight.
They value the fight. So the hardest thing, right, would be to walk away.
Some people can't walk away. And even to their detriment, just like Cool Hand Luke. He just kept getting beat more and more and more beat. He just kept losing worse and worse and worse, and he kept getting back up. I have another saying that I like that I think I should put on a shirt that says, "You don't win until I stop getting back up." And of course, I robbed that a little bit from Cool Hand Luke. You don't win. This isn't over. We're not done until I don't get back up to fight you more. Even if you keep beating the crap out of me, you haven't won yet because I'm getting back up.
But the push, not the pushback, but the reason why I think this has to be defined is it the journey or is it the outcome?
The journey.
Right? Because if it is the outcome, you can step out of that fight, step into a different fight and get the outcome.
Not that outcome. That outcome is there. You have to get a different outcome, and that's fine. That's good sometimes. In life, that's the best choice. Stop sinking your money into that stupid boat you bought that will never float.
Mm-hmm.
Sell it. Get rid of it. Just stop putting money into it. Put your money into a jet ski and get out on the water. Yeah, that's true. But within any goal. So this is the goal. I want to be mayor of this city. All right, that's the goal. You could be mayor of another city. You could quit. If you can't become mayor of this city, you go to another city. Maybe a smaller city, maybe a bigger city. That's not this goal. So there is something to be said if you pull value and worth out of the process as much or more than the product. If you only get worth from the product, then absolutely you gotta get a different product, because this one's not going to pay off. It may be hopeless.
Now, it's to step back into what the original post was, because we're speaking about outliers here. The majority of the people, I think, don't understand that whatever journey they're on in pursuit of whatever their objective is going to come with way more shortfalls than not, right? So it's, when you say success or failure is a weird word for me, to be completely honest, because I've redefined it in my head so many different ways.
Okay.
That it's not failure, because the only way to get someplace is to actually have those obstacles to overcome, because they provide the skills to be able to move you down the path to get to where you want to go.
Yeah, so
it's
temporary
not,
failures or the only
they're not
complete
even
failures when you quit.
Yeah.
Or when you die.
Well, I guess complete
done.
failures if you repeat the same thing over and over again, but you don't learn from it. Then that's just a waste of time.
Okay.
You know, because
It is.
you should, if it's in a pursuit of a strength athlete or whatever it is, business, whatever that pursuit, that road is not a paved road. It's a dirt road with a lot of holes and a lot of issues and more problems than people could ever imagine that are part of that road. Now, people will make you think it's a paved road, that you're driving a Lamborghini down, but it's a fucked up dirt road that you got a beat up BMX bike trying to ride through. Whereas that false perception that many perceive lead them to stopping after the first 5 issues. When looking back, I can look back to issues that I had in business 20 years ago that were main big things and laugh at them today. Like, how could I seriously be upset about that? But I didn't have the skills to deal with those, because I have to deal with them before. It was new. Now it's like, whatever. That's
so I think maybe if I'm following you or not, maybe I'm not. You may have to clarify. You're concerned with calling a failure something that you failed at but then kept at. Those are failures for sure. They're misses. They're a missed attempt. But it's only the end. It's only complete failure. It's only I'm done. I've been beaten. If you don't come back and learn from it and find a way to have the next failure. The next failure.
Yeah. Which is the game.
Right. And so I think that what I mean, maybe I should say something different than failure, because I see what you're saying, and then you're absolutely right. We have to fail and fail and fail until we beat that, and we go to the next place where we fail and fail and fail and beat that. But I'm saying if we just keep going, the only real failure can be is if we don't keep going.
Yeah.
That's what I'm calling failure. That's what I should say, abandonment. When we abandon our goal, when an obstacle comes, how many? This one, I got through it. I failed, but then I got through it. This one, I failed, I got through it. When I abandon, how many obstacles? The post was about how many of these failures or obstacles or things that you must figure a way to surmount. No matter how many times you fail, if you surmount it, that's not your failure. That didn't stop you. It wasn't that one that stopped you. So now you're closer to your goal. How about the next one? Is this one going to stop you? Does it take 2? Does it take 3? Does it take 4? Or can you say, I'm just going to stay at this. I may not make it. And I may keep failing. And one of these things I may not be able to surmount. But I'm going to keep knocking. It's like I tell people sometimes, I say, I'm getting pulled out to sea. My health is going down. I'm getting pulled out to sea. but I'm going to go down, swimming towards shore. When I go down, I'll be swimming that way, not that way, and I'm not just going to sit there. I'm going to keep trying to get back to shore, but it gets further and further away. But I'm not going to quit, Dave. That's just me. That's me. That's the fighter. That's the thing that I value. Now, if I give up, I go down. If I don't give up, I'm probably going down. But I'm going down facing the shore.
Well, what's the real option there, though? I mean, in my brain,
Go down.
You can just
ride it out.
Yeah, so you go down,
Yeah.
right?
People do. People give up. They stop swimming towards shore. They give up on their goal. There is a certain amount. It was 12 things, and I couldn't surmount the 12th, and I never did get there, and I quit. And there's nothing wrong with that. But in the post, I say that this is a way that you can measure your commitment. How many obstacles will it take you to stop? If you have a low commitment, it's a low number of obstacles. If you have a high commitment, it'd be a high number of obstacles that it would take to stop you. And that's what that one meant. That's what I was getting at. But in the end of it, I turned that around to saying about this value and this love affair that some of us have with fighting and trying, and saying trying is as good or better than winning. I like striving. I like straining as much as I like winning. And that's true. And I love to win, Dave. I love it. Winning it's underrated. It's so good. It's underrated. People don't talk enough about it. It's great. But I think that the journey and the fight is where things really happen.
Winning's also temporary.
Right.
Because what happens after that?
What then?
Yeah, so then it goes into that. So is it on to the next?
In powerlifting, we know what happens. 5 more pounds. We know that. We want 5 more. Yeah. Or, so winning isn't what we want. I believe that what people want more than a thing is they want a feeling. You say, I want to deadlift 500 pounds. Okay, you deadlift it and you put it right back down on the ground. And I've said this before. I say a lot of things, many times, but it's still true every time I say it. You didn't want to lift 500 pounds. You wanted the feeling that you get from lifting 500 pounds. It's the feeling that you want. We want feelings. We don't want things. You say, I'm going to set a goal. I want to drive a Mercedes. And you work your ass off and you buy a Mercedes. Now you drive a Mercedes. Is that what you want? Or do you want the feeling of being seen in the Mercedes? Or the feeling of driving a Mercedes instead of a Honda? Feeling. Feelings are powerful. Things are not. We think they are. And they are the point of crystallization. The 500-pound deadlift is the thing that we want to do, but it's not what we want. We want the feeling that comes with doing the thing. So you still have to do the thing. You still have to save your money, work your ass off, and get the Mercedes to drive it, to feel it. But it's the feeling that has the power to move us and motivate us. And now that I've learned that, finally, that feelings are the power of motivation, I'm a better coach. I'm a better motivator. I know how to get more out of people because I target their feelings. And the goal's still there. I want to bench 600. I want to bench 7. I want to do. That's still there. That never goes away. But that's not what we want.
There's a difference. There's a difference. There's a difference I'm trying to process because, like yourself, I do believe everything that I've learned of value I learned in the weight room. Yes, I've had people kind of criticize the same thing, but where am I supposed to learn it? Is it okay to learn it in a football field? I can learn it in band, but I can't learn it in the weight room.
No, it's okay to learn it wherever you are.
Exactly.
Guess where we were?
That's where I was, so that's how it works.
So thank God we paid attention and learned something. A lot of people in the gym don't learn shit.
But
don't learn anything.
When you take that 500-pound deadlift as an example, you put in the work. That's what you're striving for. That's the objective. Bam, you get it. That's a different feeling than I want to get married and have a good relationship, right? It's not like that day of marriage is like that 500-pound deadlift. I guess that's probably a bad example because it could be. That's not like I want to build, a $1 million company. And then that $1 million company happens. It's not like you just pulled 500 pounds. It's a different, you see what I'm saying? It's hard to relate those PR lifts, which are this specific short moment of time filled with adrenaline, satisfaction, and all this other stuff, to the fulfillment of a bigger goal that may be in life of, I mean, I could say happiness, but that's not even a goal. Like, how do you define that? Because nobody's happy 24/7.
Okay, let's talk through that. I'm not sure that I understand what you mean, so help me. Talk me through it. Why is it different? How is it different? Let's make some distinctions of the difference.
So when you benched all-time world record,
okay,
right? That moment after you rack it, you stand up, 3 white lights, you're jumping on the bench.
Maybe.
It's like, that moment, actualization, self-actualization, everything there, boom, you're top of Maslow's pyramid, right?
Okay.
Then it fades, it goes away, and it's still accomplished. People in life will strive to, right? They're going to strive to have, a great relationship could be a goal, or, a job that they love is a goal. All these things that they strive to, they're not that you see what I'm saying? They're not.
No, I don't. Because when you get hired for the job that's your dream job, that moment is the same as jumping on the bench. I got it. You get the letter. I've been accepted. You got it. The girl says, I'll marry you. Yes. You get that. And then it's the same thing, I think, Dave. What then? It's the same thing. It fades. And you want another feeling. And if you're smart, you take that job and you go deeper into it, and you look for the next thing that can make you feel. And if you're in a good relationship, you look for the next thing that you can achieve with that person in closeness, and it keeps going. And so I think they might be more of the same, or I don't understand what you're saying exactly. For me, when I had those numbers and I hit the number I was going to hit, I didn't feel a lot. I just felt, what then? Now what? I did 500. What's next? 505. And I set a couple records, and that was nice. But even when I set a record, like when I set that state record, 551 and a half, which was my first real record, Ohio record. And I did that, and I felt good, but I knew that I wanted to do more. I wanted more of the feeling. So there's 2 chemicals, I think. Now, I don't understand this extremely well, but so I may say things, and people will be like, no, JM, it's wrong. But it's the best I understand it at this point, and I understand it a little bit. And here's what I've gotten. When you do something that you achieve, you get a dopamine hit. You get this dopamine release, and it says, I feel good. And we used to think that was the whole reward thing. Dopamine, 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 reward, reward, reward. And I think now they're understanding, and this is my understanding, this makes perfect sense to me from my experience, is when you get that big dopamine rush, it says, that felt great, and I want a lot more of it. So dopamine says, that felt great, but I want more. I can't get enough. On the other hand, when we have a serotonin release, now I might be getting these wrong, so please don't crucify me for being wrong on the chemistry. But when we have a serotonin release, that says, that felt great. In fact, it felt so good, I'm done. I'm good. I don't need any more. And those are 2 different reactions to feeling great. One, I felt great, and I got to do more. I got to get more of that. I got to get me more of that thing. That felt so good. I got to work hard to get more. And so that motivates you to keep going. That's dopamine. And serotonin is, that felt great. Leave me alone. I'm good. And if we understand that, that's just chemistry. I think I've got that right. I hope I've got that right. But even if I've got it wrong, think about the concept of it. Sometimes things feel really good and they satisfy us. And we're done. We've had enough. I eat pizza that way sometimes. I eat it, and then I'm like, I have had enough. Mitch Hedberg says that about pancakes. It's all exciting when you start, and then about halfway down, you're sick of them. But
That's kind of true.
yeah, I love Mitch Hedberg. But there's some other things that we get that hit. We get that, I love the way that feels. I love that feeling. Got a piece of cigar. I love that feeling. And I need to work hard to get more of it. That feeling gone. I just benched a record, and man, that felt good to be a record setter. I'm going to work harder. I want more. That's dopamine. And if we learn to regulate dopamine, and I'm trying to learn a little bit more about this because I don't know enough. But what I'm learning is that we can use that in coaching. We can give these dopamine hits that say, hey, that feels great. I feel great for doing that. And I'm gonna work harder for you. I want more of that. And if we can reward people that way and make them feel dopamine, then they're gonna want to work harder for us. But if we satisfy them, if we give them this serotonin release, or they get the serotonin release, they're done working. They're going home. They leave the gym, or they quit in a relationship, or they stop trying hard at work, so we want both. We want to be satisfied sometimes, and we want to sit in that peace and satisfaction of accomplishment. But if it's too much serotonin, we're probably not going to go and try for another record.
I believe
now, I may have some of this wrong, but, but
I think I think it's like you said, is a chemical thing, because I've always been the journey person. Looking back, I like the challenge, right? Even with the main lifts, like if it's a heavy single, I like the challenge. But granted, I want to make it, but I want the opportunity to fight to do that, right? So miss it, whatever. Yeah, I don't really I do care, but not that much. I care more about that fight. Where I see when we talk about the gym to life type of thing is, I know a lot of people and have known a lot of people that haven't figured out how to take those skills that they had to be able to lift big weights and apply it to life, right?
Yeah.
So they live in the past of these big numbers that they did.
Yeah.
And that's what I try to process, is like, what about that big number? Because what they end up doing when they live in the past, always thinking about that big number.
Maybe that number gave them a shitload of serotonin, and that felt great, and they're done. That's it. That's
but living in the past lives them a life filled more of depression than it does hope.
I don't know.
Right, because they're always chasing something, that probably isn't going to be there, where they can chase something else. But I think with that, if one of them, say one's serotonin and one's, whatever you said, one's more
that may be
one chemical than the other.
Oversimplified, by the way.
Exactly, but say one of them's this big chemical rush that's like, a shot of cocaine, like, holy shit, this is crazy, it just hit crack, whatever the hell, I don't know. And the other one is more of a satisfying type thing. They're trying to find a correlation between a satisfied type thing and something that was higher.
Yeah.
And that.
I think both of those can be an important part of our life, and they should be. And what I want to learn about more is, as a coach, how to say things to people, give them a reward, give them a good job that doesn't trigger too much serotonin and triggers a lot of dopamine. Because I want to say good job, and I want to give them praise, and I want them to want more praise. And so I don't know enough about how to go about that specifically. And I think that's an important thing that I need to learn, or should be. And I'm interested in learning it. So that's something that will...
Wouldn't that change based upon the individual's personality?
Perhaps. I don't know enough about it, Dave. And I wish I did know more. But it's... I think back to my experience, and I was expecting an enormous amount of serotonin when I hit my 700, which wasn't even a record. It was just because Kenny benched 705 before I did. And I wasn't even the first guy at Westside to bench 700. Kenny was. And so, I hit the 700, and I'm like, okay, no record, no nothing. But also, even when I hit because that was the number. That's all I cared about. I didn't care about records. I cared about that number. And it happened to be, around some numbers. And by the time I got there, it wasn't the world record anymore. So that's okay. But when I hit that number, I was expecting a ton of serotonin. I was expecting to be so satisfied and so full and so done and so just completely fulfilled, done, did what I said I was going to do. A lot of men say they're going to do something. They don't do it. It's special men that say what they're going to do, and then they do what they said they were going to do. And I was expecting all this richness and satisfaction and relief, and the pressure would be off, and the drive would be off, and I would have this, that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't. I just got more dopamine. I just wanted to keep going, right? And that was a surprise to me. And I look back, and that's how it was all the time. It was dopamine, dopamine, dopamine. So I don't know enough about what triggers dopamine and what triggers serotonin, but I know that if we want to do more, if we want to learn to motivate ourselves, we should learn to do things that help release dopamine and not too much serotonin. But if you don't put any serotonin and you don't give anybody a sense of complete fulfillment, they won't. There's something really bad about that too. That's a life of chasing and never, ever feeling like you hold anything. And that's got to be horrible. And I think you were talking about that, right? Never being satisfied. That's got to be horrible too. So I was lucky. I got to a certain point, and I was full, and I felt it. And I walked away, and I was at my strongest. And I said, I'm done with this. And I thought maybe I would come back, but I said, I'm done for now, at least. And that ended up being done forever. But I had that. I have absolutely no desire, and I didn't have any desire to go back and compete. I thought I would, but I had serotonin or something. And I'm trying to explain it, and I probably am putting my foot right in my mouth. But this is the best I understand it right now. And even if it's not true, these ideas are true. We have things in our life that satisfy us and don't motivate us to do more, and they're like, I've had enough of that, like eating pizza. And then we have things that we take one bite and we just need another bite, and we need another bite, and this hinges on addiction as well, and it hinges on some of these other things. But these are pretty well studied because of addiction. And so a lot of this, and I think we as coaches would do well to read some of this literature, and I've begun to, and I'm just beginning. And so I'm apologizing for not knowing enough about this. Maybe I shouldn't have brought it up. But no, it's good that I brought it up, because people can go and read way ahead of me. They can go tonight and read more than I know about it. And then they're going to learn something about this. But I think it's a powerful concept to learn how to coach people with appropriate, and I don't know how to do this necessarily, but you can see by the reaction. When you say something to somebody and they feel great and they don't get motivated, and when you say the right thing to somebody and they feel great and they just want to prove more to you.
It's different.
And if you're a sensitive coach, I think I can tell this, but I don't know the rules of it, and they probably do know the rules. I could probably learn more about this, and I will, But it's a powerful concept, to give people. But here's the I think the biggest takeaway from any of this might be: don't withhold praise from your athletes. Don't give them nothing, because then you're not giving them either. You're not giving them. If you give them some praise and it's dopamine, they're going to be even more motivated. And I think coaches worry about giving praise and unmotivating because too much serotonin.
What about those that don't have a coach?
Okay, yeah, same thing. Credit where credit's due. You should feel good about yourself when you do good, and you should say, hey, maybe not set a PR and go buy yourself an ice cream cone, but say, hey, that's what I've been trying to do for a long time, and I did it. That might be enough. I know this. I know that people's bodies are relatively the same, and people's personalities are vastly different. And so as coaches, this is why I don't fight about programs. It's not the body, it's the personality. In coaching, it's the person. And if you have a cookie cutter approach to coaching, good luck to you. If you get enough people that happen to be in line with that, then you're going to do okay as a team. And if you don't, you're in trouble. But if you have an attitude that says, and you can't change your whole program for each individual, but you can treat individuals the way they need to be talked to and treated. And I think that's a skill that good coaches recognize. I can't just yell at kids. Some kids you yell at and they respond. And some kids you yell at and they shrivel up. And you can see that. And if you only have one tool in your box, I just yell at every kid, then the kids that you yell at that respond are going to respond, and the other kids are going to shrivel up. And that's not coaching everybody.
It's interesting because with the clinic that I do, the trainer, some people you gotta yell at, scream at. Other people you don't. Then I'll have this every now and again. I'll have somebody ask me, like, "Why didn't you like yell at me?" And like, well, I didn't have to. Mm-hmm. It's like the desired outcome. It's like, if you want me to, sure. I suppose I can probably do that. But if it's not required, but the effort is there, and it's going back to what you're saying there. Not everybody's motivated the same way. Some people are visual learners. Some people are more audible. Mm-hmm. It's even to the point that I found with clinics that I'll do it. If some people are more visual, and one cue I can tell is if I'm teaching the squat and I'm to the side and I give a cue. Every time I give a cue, they look at me. I'm like, okay, maybe I need to stop saying this, but I need to stop saying brace or stop saying knees out or whatever the hell I'm saying. I need to start saying, I want you to think about pushing your knees out. Then they no longer turn their head. So it's interesting how you got to pick up on the subtleties of what it is, with that client or whoever you're working with at the time. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Dave. Yeah.
No, I was going to jump to another subject, but if you're going to jump on that subject, I pulled up another one that says truth is demonstrated, not merely asserted. I haven't read the post on this one, but where are you going with this one?
Okay. So if you tell me something that you believe, that's fine, but that's not enough. You have to demonstrate that it is true. And so in the world we have today, especially, there's a lot of people asserting, this is how it is. This is how it is. And that's where they stop. And that is not enough to make it how it is. Just you saying it, just asserting it. That's nothing but an assertion. Assertions need to be backed up with facts. Why is that assertion true? Why is it true? Not just, hey, it's true. This is how it is, Dave. Okay? Well, I'm not convinced by that, by you asserting it. Demonstrate its truth to me. Demonstrate that it's true. And that's where people get in real trouble. Because they're good at telling you what they believe. They're not very good at telling you why they believe it and why they think it's true. And so when someone tells me something that I may disagree with, I say, okay, why do you think that? How did you come to that? How did you come to believe in leprechauns? What makes you so sure leprechauns are real? How did you come to that? Well, they are. Yeah, I've heard you tell me that they are. But now I wonder how you came to think and believe that leprechauns are real. Did you see a leprechaun? Or UFOs? Or Bigfoot? Or anything that somebody asserts, even God, assert it, and then show me how you demonstrate that it is actually true beyond just saying that it's true. And there's a whole bunch of fallacies that people pull up. And one of them is the appeal to popularity. Well, everybody says it's true. Everybody says that one rep rest pause training is the best way to get strong. Well, okay. Why is that true? Why does everybody say that? And why do you believe that it's true? Popularity doesn't make it true. Lots of people believe things. And I don't care how many people you can get to agree with you. the number of people that agree about it doesn't make it true. There are some people who believe that Christianity is true. There are other people that believe that Islam is true. There are other people who believe that something else is true. It's not a vote. It's not a numbers thing. Is this true or is that true? Or is this true? What makes it true? But more importantly to me, if you believe that Islam is true, why do you believe that it's true and Christianity isn't? Or vice versa. If you believe in Christianity is true and Islam is not, why? Tell me what supports your assertion that that is true. And that's where people fail miserably. Because they know what they believe, but they don't know why they believe it. And a lot of times it's these fallacies. Appeal to another fallacy is an appeal to authority. Well, the Pope says it's true, or my dad says it's true, or the coach says it's true. That doesn't make it true, right? Just because somebody in authority says it's true. And so this gets back to what we were talking about, doing the work of thinking things all the way through. And so that post is about, you read it on the internet, you read it enough times, repetition doesn't make it true, right? And I know that there's a lot of people that lie, and they keep asserting the lie in hopes that people will believe that it's true. And sometimes that works. And sometimes that works on us. Sometimes we repeat a lie to ourselves or a belief to ourselves without demonstrating that it's true. And we just keep asserting it and asserting it and asserting it. And we start to believe that it is true with nothing more than repetition and popularity and assertion, and there's all kinds of ways that you can fool yourself or others. And so if you care about the truth, if you really care about the truth, and this could be in truth in training and working out, or truth in politics, or truth in religion, or truth in anything. If you care about the truth, you have to say, all right, what makes it true? Or what are the things that make me believe that it's true? Why do I lean towards this as opposed to that? Why do I lean against unicorns? I don't think unicorns are true, but you might. So I would ask you, hey, what do you know that I don't know? Tell me why you think that unicorns are true. And if you can't give me facts about it, now one thing is personal experience. You could say, I saw a unicorn. I saw a Bigfoot. I saw a ghost. All right? That's fine. That's one thing. But I didn't see the ghost. So that's not demonstrable to me. That's not demonstrable. They have to be demonstrable, not just asserted. So you're asserting that, and that helps you believe. And that tells me one reason why you might believe. I saw a ghost, Dave, so I know they're real. All right, but I haven't seen a ghost, Dave, so keep going. Keep going. What else besides you seeing one makes you believe in ghosts? Well, and that's where things kind of get kind of messy. And that's where science comes in, and that's where observation comes in, and that's where reasonable argument comes in, and critical thinking comes in. We believe a lot of things to be true because we want to believe them to be true. That is a huge temptation to resist. Even scientists do it. They come up with a theory about how things work, and then they design these faulty research programs to skew the results towards what they want to see, and lean it towards their bias. They want it to be true, right? And that's not good science, and there's a lot of it out there. So that means that, just saying something is true doesn't make it true. What does make it true, or makes it more likely to be true, because we could have an epistemological discussion about how we know anything to be true. How do you know anything is true, right? And that's a whole epistemology. Epistemology is a huge thing, and it's important and it's good. But let's just say that we have to ask ourselves, how do I know this is true, and why do I believe it? And we should do that over and over again, because we hold a lot of beliefs that were just inherited from our parents or society. And we never thought about whether they're true or not, and whether we should believe them or not. And we osmotically absorb things to be true because everybody seems to think it's true, and it's not true. Sometimes, a lot of times it is. That's one good way. That is a shortcut to seeing if the whole herd, if everybody's running that way, and you're going this way, you might be going, wait, why is everybody running in a panic that way? Well, I don't really have time to investigate this, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to use this observation to go with them. And whole herds run right off of cliffs that way. But it's generally a good idea. If you don't know what's up ahead and everybody's running away from it, that's a general shortcut. But if you want to go find out, you can. But that might be the end of you, right? That might be where the tiger is. So there's these things that aren't cut and dry, but they are methods of thinking through stuff. And in this case, I'm talking about life and training. Think through these things. Don't just say this is true. This is how it is. This works. This doesn't work, because people will assert that it does. I'm a big anti-volume guy. I don't want wasteful repetitions. I don't want to do a lot of reps that don't produce, right? I don't want to spend a lot of time in the gym, and I don't want to be in the gym just to be in the gym. And so I don't think that's true, but there are people that assert that it is true. They assert that it is true. And so what we have to do is I have to say to them, well, why do you say that you have to do 6 exercises for back with 5 sets each of 20 reps? Why do you say that? Well, so-and-so does it. This bodybuilder does it. That's an appeal to authority. That doesn't make it true. That's just an appeal to authority. That's a fallacy. Or everybody in the gym's doing it. Everybody on the internet's doing it. That's an appeal to popularity. And there are other appeals too. There's the appeal to ignorance, which says, I don't know any other way to do it. What else could it be? So I believe in ghosts because I heard this rapping on my door in the middle of the night, and this sound, and what else could it be? So I can't imagine anything else but a ghost, so it must be true that it's a ghost. No, that doesn't make it true. That's an appeal to ignorance. I can't think of anything else. People say that about religion. The God had to make the world because what else could make the world, right? And that doesn't make it true, right? And I'm not saying it's not true. I'm saying that that's not the way we decide what is true and what isn't true. And these appeals to things, and you see it on the internet all the time, and folks that are not up to the task of thinking it all the way through, like you said, all the way through, are very ready to grab onto anything. Well, and they grab onto the thing that sounds most enjoyable to them.
I would even say all the way through is an impossibility. Well, yeah, nobody has the time.
That's getting back to epistemology and shortcuts and things, right? So there's a reasonable amount. There's something that is called boy, I'm gonna say it wrong. People get mad at me too about this. It's been a long time since I've been in school, Dave. But there's a theory in logic that says this. But there's a threshold for something that is reasonable. And there are ways that you put forth arguments to make them valid and to make them strong or weak. And there's a very structured way to do this. And they lead you to conclusions that are likely to be true. And they follow these very good rules, very smart rules. And they clear out all this bullshit. They clear out hey, this guy is the best deadlifter in the world, so we should all deadlift on his program. Should we? Should we do that? The best bencher in the world right now is Julius Maddox, and I don't think he has very good form. I don't think his technique is very good at all. I don't think people should bench like that. But he's the best. So since he's the best, I'm going to do what he does. Well, good luck. He's a 400 and some pound man. And good luck putting your body through what he puts his body through and the way he does it. Good luck. Good luck with that. He has had remarkable success, and nobody can take anything away from him. But he doesn't bench technically well. So are you going to have the same kind of success following Julius Maddox's program? I doubt it. I really doubt it. In fact, I would bet $100 that you will not. And that doesn't make his program wrong or right. It means that what should most people do? Should most people look at the top lifters in the world and do what they do? Is that what we should do? Should we appeal to authority? Is that what makes that the best program? Well, they were successful with it. So does their success make their technique right? I say no, it does not. Julius Maddox is an amazing human being. He has strength that he gets away with doing things wrong because he has an excess of this power and strength in him. I don't have that. I can't bench like that and do half as good as he does. Well, I can't. He's been successful doing it that way. I would not be successful doing it that way. To our own levels. And so we have to be careful. But an appeal to that is very, very, very tempting and seductive to young minds. And to not just young minds. It's seductive to all of us because we want to be good and we want to be better than we are. And so we look at the best guy and we say, well, he must know how to bench technically correct. But he's just super strong. He's just incredibly super strong. He's amazingly super strong. And most people are not him. And they're not going to have success benching in the style that he does. Et cetera, et cetera. So your success doesn't make you right. Being right means doing things in line with leverage and physics. And that's what's right. And you're going to have better success doing that unless you happen to be Julius Maddox or somebody like him. Then you're going to have success doing what he does. I bet Julius Maddox would also have good success benching technically correct. I would say that he would probably, if he benched technically correct or better than he does now, just improved his technique, he would bench more weight. He doesn't have to. He's the best. He's beating everybody without it. That's neither here nor there. If we want to know the truth about the best way to bench, what do we look at? People that are successful, or do we look at mechanics and physics and leverage? Well, you can argue, I don't care about leverage and mechanics. I just want to do what he does. Well, good luck trying, because he's not like most people. And the people at the top are not like most people. And so their programs and their approach may not be a good thing to model ourselves after. If we're regular people, and I did not model myself after what everybody else was doing. I did not model my program after what the best people were doing. I modeled it after science and leverage, and I did just fine. And everybody does just fine doing that. Only a few people get to the top and have that kind of, I don't want to revert to genetics, but those people are not like most people. The people at the top of any sport are not like average people in the sport, period. And there's many things, not just genetics. Yeah. And so we have to say, does the top level approach scale down? And it does not.
I think things in it do.
Yes, they do.
Right. You're so right. If you look at it,
things in it do. You're right.
If you look at it in a micro level, individual Julius Maddox, 100% agree. Now, if you take all the best bench pressers in the past 20 years, right? And then you look through all of them to find the attributes they share in common. Now, that's not much, right? It might only be 50%. It's 60%. Plenty. There's a lot.
There's plenty.
That is what people need to look for, because you're going to see independent variants.
You're going to see things that work for everybody.
Yes, but even then, if you look at those things that don't work for everybody.
Well said, yeah.
Yeah, those things that don't work for everybody, the independent variants, I could pull out and say that does work for everybody to figure out your own independent variants.
Say that again, Dave.
Okay, so let's just throw numbers out. 70% of what they all do is going to help everybody. The rest, recovery, all those, consistency, all those things work. Now, the 30% of the things that they do that's different than everybody else validates the fact that you may have to do things that are different than everybody else for you to get the best out of yourself.
I like the way you said that too.
That's well said too. We close the gap a little bit more, but people, and this is 1,000% true, they look at the Instagram, they look at the micro level, they look at the organ, they look at the person, the one person. That's what I need to do, instead of looking at the macro, like bam, like what's common with all the best lifters.
Yeah.
I would rather look there than what's common with all the mediocre lifters.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what, Dave? I'm going to borrow a phrase from Jordan Peterson. He says this phrase a lot. It's worse than that. It's worse than that, Dave, because on Instagram, what people are posting isn't what they're actually doing. They're just lying about what they do. And so it's even worse than we thought. It's even worse than doing what they do on Instagram, because they're not doing that to get where they got. They're hiding something that they're actually doing, and they're just saying, I do this. Hey, you know what I do? I do all these sets and reps. Maybe they don't. Or I don't use drugs, and maybe they do. Or I only there's guys on Instagram now that pretend to eat all this food, and they clearly can't because it doesn't show, right? They're not, and you know, I'm all for eating more, but what you see on Instagram is worse because there's a lot of falsity there for attention. And I can remember back to reading the early muscle and fitness magazines at the first gym I ever was at. And I remember a guy named Dan Sarkanian, and he goes, they don't do this stuff. These lifters don't do this. They just write this in there. They're having a laugh, JM. They're having a laugh. They don't do, 9 sets of squats and then hack squats and then lunges and then leg extensions, and they don't do these workouts. Nobody can do those workouts. They're just making that shit up.
Or not writing it at all. The editor's writing it.
Yeah, right. And I'm like, oh no. Oh no, you mean what I read in the magazines may not be what the actual bodybuilders do? Oh no, right? And it's a shock to me, right? And now Instagram, you got everybody and their brother who has a decent physique telling you what they did to get it, and I wonder how much of it is actually true. And in fact, I'm not even going to wonder. I'm just going to not pay attention to it because I know what it takes to get a good physique, and I don't want to hear anything else that is promising something for nothing, and that's what they always are.
See, I kind of go back and forth with this one because if you go back to pre-internet, just all the magazines, I mean, we all knew that was all bullshit. I mean, not at first.
I didn't. Yeah,
not at first, but
yeah.
After you're in it long enough, you realize this is all bullshit. It's written by editors. It's
I can't do it.
It's not true. But that was what was being fed out. But I'm gonna guess high. Let's say there were 30 different magazines at its popularity. So you go to the store. There's most people are reading 5. So everything that they're reading is kind of like bullshit. Where the only real truth might have been able to be, the only real successful clues would have been head in the gym. Here's the pro bodybuilder. He comes in and trains all the time. Here's the best bodybuilders. Here's what they actually do. And you're like, that's not what the magazine says. You're seeing this disconnect.
Well, you have to go to the gym to see that.
You got to go to the gym. Where now, though, that was the editors or powers that be creating the narrative for the brand they wanted to sell of that person. Mm-hmm. Say Jay Cutler or whoever they're trying to promote.
Or the whole sport.
Or the whole sport. So the bodybuilders were making tons of money because they had the cars, closet full of tennis shoes and all this other shit, right? Because that's what the sport wanted to portray. Now, with social media, those powers that be, they don't control the narrative, right? But the narrative is being self-controlled, like self-censored in a way, which is, so I don't know which is worse. The one that, let's say news, which is worse, 3 TV channels, 3 news stations that are all telling you lies, or thousands of podcasts and thousands of news outlets, all telling you different stuff, but the truth is probably sprinkled somewhere in some, which is worse? I don't know. I go back and forth on that one.
So what you're coming to is that truth is hard to come by.
Yeah.
No, this is important now. And so who we trust, since I cannot investigate everything, I don't have time to look at everything and check it out and see for myself. Now, the most important things in my life, I had better. I had better take the time to check them out all the way. The most important decisions, I had better do a good job of looking as far into things as I can. But I can't do that for everything. So this gets back to, whom do we trust? Who is trustworthy? How does trustworthiness be built? How do we build? My most important thing is how can I build trustworthiness in my athletes? How can I get people to trust me and believe me? And that's a process, and there's lots of factors that go into it. One of which is being right. Saying, hey, try this, and then let me know how it works. And they go, hey, that worked. That's step one. And the more times you are right with them, the more they begin to trust you. And I think another way to build trust, or at least the way I try to build trust without having to be right all the time and waiting for them to prove it out, is if you invest your time and love and vulnerability into them. So if you let them know that you really care about their success. And one way I do this is I always give extra. I always give extra time. I do 90-minute sessions, and they often go to 2 hours. I always give extra. And they know that I'm invested in them because I gave them more than I said I was going to give. And that helps build trust, because they know I wouldn't stick with this if I didn't really believe in it too. And they know that I'm willing to do a little bit more for them. And then they become willing to do a little bit more for me. And then I can get more out of them. And then if I can get more out of them and get them to work harder, they're going to see that I was right about this. And then when I was right about this, they're going to say, hey, you were right about that. I start to trust you. And then that's a big, big circle. And there's more ways to do it too. But another way that I build trust is I try to teach in a way that I don't tell them what to do or what to feel. I tell them that they have to teach themselves how this feels. So I'll put them in position, and I'll tell them generally what I want to happen. And then I'll let them kind of make a mistake here too. We talked about failure and mistakes and trial and error. And I'll let them work their way. Instead of telling them, look, don't do this, do that, I'll say, try this, okay? And when I see them doing the wrong thing, I let them do it and let them feel it. And then I say, how about you try putting your elbow in a little closer? And then they do that, and that feels better. And so they taught themselves that this is better. I sort of try to lead them to teach themselves the truth of things. And if you do that with people, if you let them teach themselves the truth of things, instead of just asserting it, it's coming full circle, said, this is how you do it, this is true, this is the way to do it. You let them have a little trial and error. Don't let them get too far off, right? But you let them find their way to where you want them to be. And you have to tolerate set after set of not quite being there, when you could just, go there and put your hands on them and move them. You let them find a way to keep their elbows tucked in a little bit better. And they feel that inside, and then they taught themselves what that feels like. And you go, there. Now, I could have told you to do that right at the beginning, but I let you find it. I let you find that feeling. And I guided you closer and closer to the feeling that I wanted to, and you felt it. Now you know it's true. Now you don't have to say, I do this because Jan says it, because it must be right. You go, I know this to be true because I taught myself the truth of it. I felt my way into this. I felt my way into stopping this internal rotation on my press. I stay externally rotated. I felt that. And so as a coach, you have to give up being the big shot and knowing all the answers, and you have to let them discover it for themselves. And I tell them straight out, you got to feel this for yourself. You got to feel your way into this. And I think that builds trust, because they know that you're leading them into trusting themselves. And when they feel it and it's right and it's easier and it's better, that makes you right again. And it's always going to come back to that. But we have to find ways to get people to agree and to feel that it's right and to know that it's right for themselves, not just to assert that it's right. This is right, this is right, this is right. Keep your elbows tucked. I can't tell you how many times I tried to teach people. I just said, keep your elbows in, and their elbows would go out. Keep your elbows in, their elbows would go out. Keep your elbows in, their elbows. And man, I keep telling them what I want them to do. They haven't felt it, so I had to find a way to teach them how to feel to keep them in. And they did. And then, and now I could probably tell somebody, this is a joke, I could probably tell somebody that next workout, we're going to chew glass. And they would walk through the door with 2 bottles in each hand. Just trust me. I've been right enough times, and I've taught them to believe that I'm right. And they'll probably, if I told them to run into a wall, because it would work, they would run full steam into a wall. Now that's hyperbole. But what I'm saying is, if you get trust from your athletes, but you have to be right enough times with them to gain their trust. And that you have to build that. And you can't just demand it. You can't demand respect, and you can't demand trust. You have to be with them working through this miserable, elbows are out, keep your elbows in, and you have to work them in. And perhaps you have to actually physically move them a couple times. And I do that too. But you have to go through that, and that's slow. It's not fast, it's slow. And those lessons stay with them forever. They never forget those because they learned them themselves. Now you were instrumental in guiding them to that teaching, but they know it, and they listen, and they benefit. If you are right, they benefit. And so a good way to make sure that you build trust is make sure you're right about your beliefs, and that you're not just asserting them. And then if you're right, you can pass those on, and people will see you're right, and this thing can snowball. So that's sort of what that was about. That's a long time we talked about that.
If you were at some point in time in your journey as a lifter, there was the decision that you made that I'm going all in, I'm going to be the best bench presser I can possibly be. Whenever that period is, doesn't really matter. If that were you in today's world, today, because back then there's magazines, gyms, stuff like that for you to vet out content, how you were going to move forward in that journey. How would you navigate it if you were that person in the world that we're in now? With social media, access to all the different coaches that are out there, how would you navigate this?
Okay. I think I've heard some of your guests say this or something super similar. So this will be redundant. But if it's redundant and you hear it from enough coaches, then people might think that's good. So I think that there are several steps. One is you should make sure that who you're listening to has some sort of formal education. Some sort. Two, they should have some sort of experience in what that you're trying to do. And those two things are both important. I do not think that you have to have played in a Super Bowl to be a good Super Bowl coach. But if you played football at a high level, that's going to help. And I don't think that you have to have a 4-year degree or a massive amount of understanding. But wait. I shouldn't have said understanding. Massive amount of education to be able to teach people things that are true and are right. But some education is absolutely necessary. And so I think those two things start off. And I don't think you have to choose between. This guy was a power lifter and he was successful, but he doesn't know shit. Doesn't even know the names of the muscles. Doesn't know insertions. That's not it. And then this guy's all book learning, but he never competed. And that's not right either. There's a blend. And there's plenty of coaches that have done both. They have some knowledge that's been educated. They've learned. So I think that the umbrella of experience needs to come down and be rooted in the cement block of education. So it starts with some education. You've got to start with some education. You got to know something about the body and training. And then you root this, and the more experience you get, the broader that umbrella is. And that's what I think is the best. But having said that, now, because of the internet, I'm exposed to other coaches talking and stuff. And what has been just slapping me in the face is there's a lot of people that have a great education. They have the same education I do. And they know the answers. And they learned the answers in school. And they gave the right answers in school. And they have the education. But they do not have an understanding of what they know. Because then they say something with this education and these degrees and these credentials that isn't right or isn't properly applied. So you have to have an education, but you can't just know the answers. You have to know what that means. Do you know what your education means? Do you understand what you know? Do you understand what you've learned? And if you understand it, then we'll go to the next step. Can you take your knowledge, the things that you know, and you got great grades on, you know it. You got your degree, and you understand it. You understand what this stuff means. Now, can you go to the next step? Can you make something out of that? Can you do something with that? I don't care if you understand it and you know it. What can you do for me? Can you coach me? Right? So there you go. I mean, I am amazed at these people that have degrees and also people that have great success in powerlifting, and they still don't understand. So education and experience are wonderful, and they're part of that umbrella. But if you don't understand what that is, there's a lot of people that have been great lifters that don't know exactly how they did it. They just did it. They went in, every man for himself, lifted hard, got good results. They don't know shit.
Dig deeper in what you mean by understand.
Okay, so knowing things is like knowing the right answers. How many meters in a mile? What's the fastest land animal? What's the highest peak in North America? You can throw those things out and get good grades, and you can learn all about muscles insertions and origins and actions, and you can learn about the size principle of muscle recruitment and the all these things, right? You can learn all these things, but do you understand what they mean? So on a test, there's not a lot of tests that aren't anything better than repetition, all the way in college. And so I want you to write an essay about the size recruitment principle of motor units. And how does that apply to throwing a shot put versus rolling a bowling ball? I can write a whole bunch of shit about that because I understand what the size principle means. I can also tell you how the size principle works. I know the education. I was educated on it, but I can apply it with my understanding to something. And then one step further, I can teach something and make something out of that. So knowing answers is good, and that gets you through school, and that'll get you lots of good grades. And you think you're real smart, and you know a lot of things, and you have been educated. But now I want to know if you understand what you've been educated on. And so for that, you have to demonstrate something. You have to do something. You have to create a program that's effective. You have to justify why you chose this exercise over that exercise with good reasons. You understand why something is better than something else. So there's these hierarchies of understanding that go up. The bottom one is just memorizing stuff, and that gets you through school. The next one is understanding what you have learned. The next one is being able to do things like compare and contrast. The next one is like synthesizing a bunch of different ideas into one thing. And the very highest one is creation. The very highest level of intelligence is creation. It's taken all the things you've memorized, like the structural integrity of of steel, and basic principles of linear stress loads, and then understanding how that would work, and then comparing different kinds of steel, and then building a building, making something with all this stuff that's underneath. So at the top is You make something, you create something, you do something with all this intelligence and all this knowledge. And everyone down there comparing and contrasting, evaluation, I forget some of them, but I think I made my point. The bottom level is where most people are, and they think they're really, really done. They got it. They got their education. They got their credentials. They're certified. They know stuff, and they really do. But then they say something that shows me that even though they know this, they've misunderstood it. They've misunderstood what they're supposed to know. They know it. They'll tell you the right answer, but they've misunderstood how it works. And I see it all the time. I'll see somebody say something. I'm like, oh, yeah. And then they'll say something. I'm like, they don't understand. They don't get it. They've misunderstood their education. So much for the education. And then after understanding is this creation of something, making something useful, a program, a building, creating anything at all is where it's at. So an artist has to know some things. He has to create a painting. But he has to know something about brushes. He has to know something about canvas. He has to know something about pigment. He has to know something about color theory. He has to know something about thinners and mixtures and light and how light hits the canvas. And if he wants the light to show something, he's got to use a certain pigment to get that light. And that's a synthesis of all this stuff. And this is where school's at down here.
There's one component that you can have all those things, but then becomes the next pyramid. You have to be able to communicate it. Right. Coach it.
Yeah.
Right. So now you're dealing with human needs, the ability to communicate, a whole nother area of study, to be completely honest, that what happens in this industry always has. You can take very, very good communicators, influencers who don't have any of this, but yet they can dominate the market because they communicate very, very well, very effectively.
And there's a lot of misinformation communicated that way.
Where my push on that was, if you've already built all this, why not take the time to learn how to communicate more effectively? Because what happens is the coach that bitches. Why does these inadequate, stupid people have all these clients? Well, because they know how to communicate, so it's easier for this person to learn communication skills than it is for this person to actually get success with a client. Because normally, over a period of time, all the popular influencers, even if you go back before social media, they never last. They never last as coaches. They never last as trainers. They never last as anything because their base, their substance is shit. Yeah. But they made their splash because they're very good communicators. Right. Where on this side, you'll have coaches that are pompous assholes or whatever, that just can't get their message out because they have this mental block.
And so you made a very good point that ties together what I was trying to do. I guess I didn't do it well enough. You're absolutely right. We have to pull all this together. Mm-hmm. If you asked me what someone should be looking for.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so someone should be looking for all of it. You should be greedy. You should be greedy because you're going to go into a gym and you're going to spend time, effort, energy, blood, sweat, tears, and passion.
You're right. I did ask what to look for in that.
Yeah, but
you wouldn't want to look for that.
That's quite a bit of investment on your part. And so if you're going to do that, you shouldn't just go, I like the way this guy looks, or this guy was successful. That shouldn't be enough for you to go put in hours and hours and hours of your life, and it might or might not work. You should look for education, experience, understanding, and the ability to be taught.
Yeah,
that's where you should be. That's who we should be learning from, and that's also that gets smaller as it goes up. There's a whole bunch of people at the bottom, and there's a few people nearer the top that have all of this and put all this together. That's one of the things you do here that is so important. You have impressed me by first of all, that you do these things where we try to help people for free, but you try to put out this level of quality education for people. And the world owes you.
No, I mean anything.
No, well, I'm going to tell you that I think they do, and they don't know it. How about this? They don't owe you anything, but they should be grateful that you do what you do, that we do things like this. And they should be grateful about that, because they can come here and trust this. And not everything I say is going to be accurate or trustworthy, but I do my best. I only give my best advice. But most of this has already passed this gauntlet, this filter of this is a place to come and learn. And you can choose to go to other places, but this is a premier. Should be on your top of your list. And I'm talking to people that already are here listening, but it's still true. And I guess I didn't want to embarrass you by saying the world owes you, but people should be glad that you do what you do, and I'm glad you do what you do. And they may not know it, but if they pay attention even a little bit, if some of this leaks out to them and they start doing it, they'll be glad that you do it too.
I think there's more nuance to all this than many people portray, online when they're putting out content and stuff like that.
This is long form. This is what it really takes, Dave. I do these things on the internet, and I try really hard, and it is so hard to teach anything. And even the videos I did today, I am trying so hard to put a lot of ideas and really teach into a short period of time so people won't, not learn. But if you really want to know this stuff, we're in a long haul, long game sport and activity. Building muscle is not a short-term thing. Getting super strong is not a short-term thing. Getting athletically proficient is not a short-term thing. These are all long format. And unfortunately, people give me the one trick to move my bench up 35 pounds. And there's nothing. That's not a thing. It just isn't. There are no short things. There's no short formula, meaningful tricks, gimmicks, hacks, shortcuts that we can give them. We have to give them this.
It's crazy if you think back to all the conversations you've had with other lifters in meets or after workouts or in gyms, and you go through 30 years of all that. There's thousands of hours. Now, a lot of it's just fucking around and all this stuff, but there's usually that little thing that you didn't know, but it took 100 hours for that one thing to come out.
Yeah.
That I think that a lot of that gets lost, because a lot of people are training alone. They're not training. I can go down a big rabbit hole there, but there's not this big exchange of ideas of where people are coming in and training with other people who are passionate. Yeah. So you train with other people who are passionate. You come into the gym and there's a group of 5 people. Somebody read something like, "Hey, did you see this?" Like, yeah. That becomes dialogue.
Yeah.
Which was just our normal dialogue, just normal dialogue that ends up over a period of time creating that part of it that you call experience. Yes, it is the time under the bar, but it's also all the time speaking with all these other people to flesh ideas out, because the good ideas tend to stay.
Yeah.
Bad ideas don't last that long.
And I'll do a whole bunch of bad ideas to get to a couple good ones. I think that's something that you said about how many hours it takes to get a few nuggets. And I feel that way about reading. I didn't used to. I wanted to read a book and have something pop up on every chapter that I could use. And now I'm like, if I read a book and I get 1 or 2 good things out of it that are truly useful, that was totally worth it. Totally worth it. And in this day and age, everybody wants to go to a 3-minute video and get something super useful out of it. They don't want to read for 5 hours and get 2 useful ideas that they're going to practice every day. But I do. That's how it works. We have to be willing to mine these ideas. We have to be, and if you're not, good luck with the short-term stuff. Good luck getting good advice off of this.
See, I would add to that too, to also be willing to go back and reread the sources that you've already mined before, because you can read a book 10 years ago and read it now, and it hits you entirely different, or the parts that you just skimmed over now have huge meaning.
Yeah. When I was younger, I didn't read something 10 years ago and then read it again. Now that I'm older, I've read things 10, 20, 30 years ago that I can reread now. And holy shit, are you right? You're so right, Dave. Because I'm a different person now. And the same words are going to hit me differently. They're going to mean something different to me because I have changed. And you're so right about this revisiting and reevaluating and stuff that we have found useful before. I started doing it with a couple books. There's a couple books. One is The Art of War. I'm big on that. I keep going over it. And about the 6th or 8th time that I read The Art of War, I realized it wasn't about being a warrior at all. It wasn't about war. It was about avoiding war. It was all about not going to war. It was all about winning without firing a shot, being so overwhelmingly powerful, making yourself so overwhelmingly powerful that when you show up, the enemy surrenders. And that way, you lose nobody, they lose nobody. You absorb them into your group. You don't destroy them or destroy their land. They become part of you. You win without the battle, without the destruction. And that has to happen before you go to war. And I read the book now, and I'm looking for how, not to be a warrior, but how to win without war. And that's what. And then I finally read some history about him, Sun Tzu, Master Sun. And he was a young man who witnessed a war come through his village, and they ruined everything. They killed villagers. They trampled all of the crops nobody could eat. There was famine. They ruined the water, and there was dead bodies everywhere, and there was disease. And these are just people that were living there when a war came through, and he saw how wasteful the war was, and these wars used to last. And the country that was funding the war, those people suffered too, because they were sending supplies out to feed and money to feed the war that was going on in some other country. And it's just an enormous amount of waste. And so how can we win without all the waste? And this is an idea that I think about in the gym. How can I win without all the wear and tear and all the waste and all the, but revisiting that on about the 6th time, I completely said, oh, this isn't about being a warrior and being a good warrior. This is about winning without war. This is about the art of not having a war. How do we do this? Don't attack unless you know you can win. Retreat, get stronger, then attack, and win quickly with less waste. It was all about that, and it took me about 6 reads. I was trying to be a great warrior, I wanted to be a great warrior. And the greatest warrior, he says, the greatest victory is one that incorporates your enemy, not destroys them. If you destroy your enemy, they're gone. If you win them over to your side, to your way of thinking, you become stronger. They're all on your side. They all pay taxes to your king. They're all in the group now, instead of just wiping them out. That's wasteful. So now you and I are having a discussion, and we don't see eye to eye. My job isn't to vanquish you and show you wrong. My job is to try to win you over to my way of thinking. And I can't be very confrontational that way. I have to be inviting, and I have to be overwhelmingly convincing to you. And that's a huge win, because now you and me are both thinking the way I thought, instead of me just crushing you and showing you how wrong you are. You're wrong, Dave, because look, and look, and look, and you're wrong, and you're wrong, and you're wrong. Boo, you lose. No, I'm going to be like, hey, how about thinking my way?
Going back to what you were saying earlier, it's a shitty way to coach. You're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. We've known people that's how they coach.
Yeah.
That's how they educate. You're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. They get temporary attention, but then when pushed back with why, or how,
right,
then it fades, as you said earlier, just fades.
Yeah. A really good question to ask people when they think they're certain about something. Like, I learned this by listening to people who were for Brexit. So Brexit was a huge disaster when Great Britain pulled out of the European Union, but they voted to do it. And so I listened to this guy. He had a call-in radio show, and he's a super smart guy. And people would say, I'm glad that we're out, because now, we don't have to follow all those rules from the European Union, and we're not under that tyranny, and it was terrible. And he'll say, all right, what are the 3 most important things that you can do now that we're out, that now that those rules are gone, what's number 1 for you that you can do now that you couldn't do then? And they say things like, well, everything. And he's like, no, just give me 3 things that you do now. Thank God we're out, right? Because we don't have all those rules. So which rules are the ones that bothered you most? Well, I hated them all. Or so many. Oh, so many. And they don't have an answer. They haven't thought it through, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this exposes that. Tell me the 3 things, or tell me one thing. Give me one thing that is the most important benefit in your life now that we're out of the European Union. And they're like, well, my life is so much better. And he's like, yeah, but give me one thing. Give me just one thing about your life. And he just keeps pushing the issue, and they got nothing because they've not thought about it. And they're just asserting without any sort of demonstration. And they can't demonstrate anything ever because they haven't thought it through. And then he makes fun of him. He's like, you tell me for sure. You didn't call into a national radio show and not have reasons. Come on, you're just playing with me. Tell me your reasons. What are you really so glad that you can do now that we're out of the European Union? Tell me what you're doing now. What are you doing today that's so great now that we're... And they don't have it. They're just complaining. And so asking ourselves that too. If I get what I want, what's the thing I really wanted? Why do I want that? Or when someone is arguing with you. All right, let's say you get your way. What's the most important thing you're going to do once you get your way? Or stuff like that. Or what bothers you most about my way of doing things? So you hate me, you hate the way I do it, you hate this. What's number 1 on your list of the things that you hate? Well, I hate everything about it, right? You get the same nonsense rhetoric. Well, you do things wrong. I know you think I do things wrong. You've said that. We're past that. What is it that you hate the most? What do I do wrong the most that bothers you most? And people don't have so much. So that assertion without demonstration. Asserting something is true does not make it true. Demonstrate it. Demonstrate that it's true. Show me, tell me. Why? And that could open up conversation, but usually they don't have a good why. And that exposes that at least. And you say, well, if you don't have a really good why do you hate me so much? If you don't have this great reason that now that you don't have these rules in Brexit, what is it that you can do now that you couldn't do before? And if you can't tell me anything, maybe it wasn't such a great idea that we left. Or maybe you shouldn't hate me so much, or the way I do things so much. Perhaps it's not as bad as you thought. And those kinds of things are useful when we want to bring people our way.
I think it's useful just for people in general to ask, I guess, hard questions, of themselves. Like, it's because they are, because if you sit and ask, like, what, if it's my business, like, what am I really looking for out of this? Mm-hmm. That's not an easy answer.
No.
It's really not. And
What's
I got
number one,
25
Dave?
years of thinking about it,
Number
you know, to
two, yeah.
really try to dig in, like, what is it really? And then when you superficially answer it and you ask yourself, okay, then why? You know, and then okay, stuck. But I've seen this come into play because we're washed up meatheads, come into play with, you know, lifters that think that they battle with when is it time to quit competing,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of them think it's the competing that they love, because they've never asked, why do you really do this? Or why are you still doing this? And I don't like the question why, because if you ask somebody why, it kind of puts them on the defense. You know, like, it would be better to say, can you explain to me, you know, and not actually use a why. You know, that's a tough.
Sure.
And I found that just through podcasting. It's better to instead of say why, say how.
Explain to me.
You know, explain to me, stuff like that. It's a little bit different.
Sure.
And a lot of times what they find is it's just training hard. That's what they really like. And then, okay, well then maybe it isn't so hard to no longer compete.
Right.
Because you can find ways to feed that demon, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
You know, it's there, but they don't ask, like, what exactly? And for a lot of lifters, it's not health. So that's a hard default, right? Where they think it should be, like, when you retire, it's like, well, I need to do this because of my health. Like, you never did this because of your health. You got to find, you know, and they fight. And then some of them just get more and more hurt, you know, trying to compete, where they don't ask that, you know. And sometimes if you can get them to see it, it's like a weight just was lifted. Oh, cool. So I don't have, because they're not impressing anybody by competing. They think they are.
Well, their lifts go down every year. They don't
Yes.
go up.
Yes.
They keep training every year. But every year, even if they're at nationals, they don't really keep going up. They go down. You know, nobody lifts more when they're 60 than they did when they're 30. Nobody that competed at 30 lifts more.
Mm-hmm.
It goes down. And it goes down from 55. And it goes down from 50. It goes down from 45. It just keeps going down. Now, those can still be records, and those can still be valuable, and those can still be competitive, and they can still feed that desire to compete. But the numbers go down. You're doing less, and you're doing less, and you're doing less. You could say I have more world records, because if you stick with it long enough, you're the only guy doing it at 70, and everything you do is a new world record. And that's great. And I don't mean to take anything away from people that can still do it. I can barely walk through the door, so my hat's off to those people that still do what I used to do. I love it when they can do that, and I'm happy for them. But they're still moving less weight. It wouldn't be satisfying to me.
On this topic, that's all. There's a video that Mike Israel made on. He was speaking about biological age, training age, and when somebody starts training. So if you start at 13 compared to somebody that starts at 40, and it's a 20-minute. It's probably the best video I've seen that kind of covers this whole thing. And I've sent it to many people, and I'm always amazed at how they cherry pick and take away things that fit and it's never the reason why I sent it in the first place. I mean, the reason why I sent it in the first place, because most of them did start when they were teenagers, and it's like, okay, you might want to like look at changing this direction, but they'll be like, that's the greatest thing ever, man. I could just keep fucking pounding. I'm like, where did you see I love that, and it makes me laugh, because I try to go back through and think, and I'll watch it again in a different mindset to see, could I see that? And I don't. It's interesting. That was just a funny type of thing, because time's going to get you. Like, wear and tear is going to get you. It's going to get everybody at different times. You know, if you come in later, it will, can come in later. But I think a lot of these people just forgot that they started competing
the day before they die. and it's hard to give up things that we love, and we've gotten so much out of our time and our competing and lifting heavy, and we've gotten so much out of being in a smaller group that was more advanced in whatever, and everybody gets a sense of accomplishment and belonging and satisfaction from that and fulfillment, and that's true. And it's hard to say, I'm not going to do that anymore. It's hard to give that up. And it was super hard for me because what I said was, where else can I exist at this level? I know I'm a lousy academic, but I'm at some level, but I'm not at the top level. I'm a lousy everything compared to what I was in that one little place. And so we can hyper-identify with that. And my solution, which is my solution, was going to be, I'm going to coach. I'm just going to I'll stop lifting, but I'll be at every world championships, because I'll have guys at every world championships, and I won't be on a platform, but I'll be there and I'll still be in it, and that'll be fine for me. And that wasn't fine at all for me. Watching somebody else makes me very happy, and I'm super glad I can help them. And every time in a workout that they exceed, I feel great. I don't feel like I did it. Didn't feel like when I lifted, when I scored the touchdown and spiked the ball, that felt different than when I helped somebody else score them, hand off to them, and they run for the touchdown. It's different. And I still like to be involved in it. And so that failed me. That plan failed me. And I had read a bunch of books about how athletes fall apart after their careers. They go get the gold medal, and then they become alcoholics, and they become drug addicts, and they get depressed, and they commit suicide. And these books had some ideas for this, and you got to plan out what you're going to do. So that was my plan. Like this foolproof plan. Lots of ex-athletes become coaches and become good coaches. I want to be a good coach, and I still strive to be a good coach. But it wasn't the same until I began to view pursuing strength in lifting to pursuing this strength of character. Because I apply the exact same rules and things I learned that now I'm trying to make myself this person. And it's pretty undeveloped, right? As a pretty novice human being, I wasn't real good at being a strong person for others. And once I started to say, okay, this isn't so different. I can apply myself in the same way, and I can seek strength again, because I love strength. And it wasn't until I really shifted over to want to do this that I'm completely okay with not doing that, because that was a lot. That gave me a lot. That's why I'm sitting here, because of that. But I now have this other thing I want to be just as strong in. We don't have a competition for being kind and strong and good for people and helpful to people and carrying people when they need you. But I can compare myself to yesterday. And how many people did I walk by and nod to, or just walk by? The least I can do is nod to somebody, perhaps get a conversation with them, perhaps make their day better, perhaps say, hey, those are nice shoes. Just keep on walking. I try to improve on that. I try to be a better person, human being. I don't want to sound pretentious again, but this is what I want to be strong at now. And I want to be as strong as I can be. And I don't care if I'm the strongest. I just care that I'm stronger than I was last week. And I'm benching more in this pursuit of character strength and mental strength and emotional strength to carry it. It's hard to carry people emotionally. I'm sure you know. I'm sure that the lessons you learned with your boys, and I'm sure that every parent learns lessons that are really, really important about carrying weaker people, because kids are weak and dumb. They don't know shit, right? You got right, and you have to carry them, and that's a good way. And then
while they're kicking you,
biting you, yeah, and not appreciating you, and you do it anyway. And so that saved me now. the angst and the loss of something wonderful and fulfilling and defining, and it's gone. And now and then the arthritis took like practically everything away. I got one joint, elbow, and I train the hell out of it. I do biceps and triceps a lot, and they're easy to recover from one group. Yeah, and so I can train them really hard, and I do. But this reapplication of the same me that I became to compete at the highest level of lifting at that time is the same path I'm on now. But like you said, it's a different pyramid. It's a different mountain. I've done that, Dave. I've done what you said. I've done it here, and I was fortunate to be able to get pretty high. And then now I'm going to do it here. And I'm going to make myself a better person, right? But more than that, I'm going to make myself strong in these virtues that I want to pursue. And they're very stoic virtues. It's stoicism, through and through. This is not new. The ancient Greeks had it. They figured this out. And I'm a big follower of, not follower. I love to read and think about Epictetus, and I love to think about Epicurus, and those guys are just, and all the Stoics really, even Marcus Aurelius to some degree. But these people have known about this for 2,000 years almost, right? And so we can unplug from all this. I'm trying to think of the word that Matt used this morning with me. He said pathogenic. He has a better phrase for it, but the society that we're in is pathogenically pulling our attention away. It's confusing us, and it's pathogenic. I wish you could tell me the right word, but we can go back to stoicism a little bit at least. I'm going in full bore, and then we can unplug from all this, and I really think it's a healthier way. I don't think I've ever been happier or poorer, by the way. I'm unplugging from a lot of these things that were important, and I'm replugging into, and I did the same thing, Dave, when I focused on bench press. I didn't care about what, car I drove or clothes I wore. I cared about bench press. And unfortunately, I may not have cared about the people in my life as much. I cared about bench press maybe more than them, and that's to my discredit. But being able to focus and cut away the fat from my life and the distractions out of my life, to do that, I can do that now for this other thing, this other mountain, like you call it, that I'm on. And it's the same thing, and it feels the same. I feel challenged every day, and I seek challenges. Like I told you, I watch videos and I try to do it, and then every chance I get, I try to present myself to people, and I say, here I am. Here I am. What can I do for you? Not, this is who I am. I'm this and I'm that, and I'm this and I'm that. No, it's, here I am. Here I am for you. What can I do? You can command me. I present myself to you to be commanded for your needs. And in that, there's this flip. I don't mean to be trite, but it's better to give than receive. It has, I can't paint you with butter sticks and not get it all over me. Mm-hmm. And that's what happens. And I'm amazed by it. And it just, I keep getting better and better at this, of presenting myself to other people and wanting to be stronger and do it better and better. And that's what I want. I want to be just as strong as I was with this other strength that I had. And I want to bring up that character strength and emotional strength for people. And holy shit, because of that, I get a bunch back. I feel great every day just for having tried to be with people. And they don't all respond. Some people think I'm weird. You know, like, who's this guy talking to me? I don't know this guy. And they don't. And I just keep moving. But a lot of times, something happens. I'm staying at this hotel that Dylan bought for me. And I pull up and I just start talking to the valet guy on the way in. He's from Ethiopia. And the other guy is from Nepal. And we talked about Tenzing Norgay and what, you know, and that stuff. And we started talking. And so I check in and I come out and I'm like, where should I park? And the valet guy goes, here. Park right here, right in front, the first spot right here. I'm gonna pull this chain out. You park right here. I didn't talk to him and be nice to him to get something out of it, because I saw him and I talked to him as a person, just trying to make his day better. I'm walking right past him. I don't need valet. I just go, hey, how's it going? I saw his name. I said, what's that name? It had this long Ethiopian name, but it started with S-O. So I said, can I call you So? He goes, yeah. And we start talking, blah, blah, blah. He goes in. I come out. He does this for me. I think it's like $25 to park there. I ain't pay nothing. My car's right there right now. That's not why I do these things. But I'm just saying that, isn't it strange? It's strange to me that these things are just falling back on me. Now, I'm not trying to play some sort of, you know, universe gives you back and this and that. I'm just saying I feel good being nice to people, and I want to strengthen myself, so I had to practice. So I want to be nice to people. So I saw this guy standing out there all by himself in the heat, and I stopped and talked to him for a minute, right? And then somehow I benefit from that. And you know, when I came back at night after going to dinner, he runs over and pulls a chain out for me again. And I just think it's interesting. And it doesn't always work like that. Some people tell me to go to hell, and that's fine. And I still feel good. I still feel good every day, because I'm strengthening this other part of me, this other mountain that I'm on. And it's just like lifting. And sometimes I drop the bar and it doesn't go well, and that's okay. I learn, you know, and I keep going. And so that's what this can do. That's what learning how to push yourself in the gym can end up. It's teaching me how to push myself in this other thing. It's very uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable to talk to people who you don't know, and really talk to them and ask them questions and look right at them and listen to them and make yourself a person to them. They might not like you, but that's all right. I'm not doing it to be liked. I'm doing it to be stronger. And I've been doing it for maybe a year, maybe even. I don't know. I'm getting better at it, right? I'm getting stronger. I can handle more. I am happy doing it. Just as happy as when I was pursuing this other thing. And now, as I'm making myself stronger and pursuing strength just for me, I want to be a strong man. Other people are benefiting somehow. They like it. They like when I'm nice to them. They like when I ask them about their stuff. I talked to a Nepalese guy who's doing valet. And we talked about Tenzing Norgay, and we talked about his country, and he loved it. And how many people walked right by him? I'm not necessarily special. I'm just saying this opportunity is everywhere for us to strengthen ourselves. And it's in the gym, and it's on the street, and it's all about strength for me. And it's to me now, finally, it's the same thing. And I think I'm getting somewhere, maybe,
Yeah.
Dave. Maybe I'm getting somewhere as a human being. A little late, but I don't think that if I hadn't accomplished anything for myself, that I'd be able to do this now. I'm not sure if you take that away, and I just said, back then, I want to be strong as a character, and I want to be good for people, and I want to present myself to people to be used, that I could have done it. But because of everything I learned doing that, that was so very linear and obvious. When you made a lift, you knew it. When you missed the lift, you didn't. When you added 5 pounds, you knew it. It was very clear what was happening and how I was making it happen. I was taking care of all those things in my life, the recovery and the training and the sleep, and everything was working. And now I'm doing it in a different thing, but it feels the same to me. I feel like I'm going to compete. There's no competition. But whoever I see later today, I'm going to do it. And even if people are misbehaving, I'm going to do it. And I'll get stronger because of it. And that's the accomplishment. I'm not doing it to give them something. If I can give them something, wow, that's even better. But again, I'm doing this for me because this is how I want to be. I want to be a strong man. I want to have strong character. I admire those kind of guys. I admire men who can do that for other people. And so, just like I admired men that could lift a lot of weight and have big muscles, I admire these men here that are strong in a different way. Like you said, a different mountain.
Yeah.
So if lifters are thinking about stopping lifting and getting off that mountain, it ain't easy to find another mountain, Dave. You can't just jump to any mountain that's going to reward you. But if you can find another mountain that's as rewarding as this mountain, you can just start right over again and just go right into it.
I think it's more than starting over again because you've already acquired the skills from the first mountain.
Yeah.
That you have the tools to climb the second.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Right. I'm on it now. I'm moving ahead. I'm in my second, maybe seriously first year, but I'm moving pretty good. I feel stronger. I feel better. And I like it. And so I don't know if this is good or bad. And I also don't, I had a hard time with this. Just like when I was strong, it was hard not to feel superior to weaker people. I lift more than you. It's hard not to feel superior. I'm smarter than you. I get better grades than you. I got more degrees than you. I'm smarter than you. Hard not to feel superior. Right? And now I finally figured out how to get out of that. All I got to say is, look, I'm not better because I'm stronger. I'm not better than you because I'm kinder than you. I'm not superior to you because I can be kinder than you. I'm just different. I don't want to be an unkind person. I want to be a kind person. That doesn't put me here. It just puts me over here. I don't want to be there. I don't want to be unkind. I don't want to be weak. I don't want to criticize people. I want to be over here. And now it's not this thing for me. It's just, I just want to do this. I want to be strong in this thing. And I don't necessarily want to be stronger or compare myself to anything. I want to be stronger than I was in this thing. I want to be kinder. I want to be more open to people. I want to open myself up to people more. And that doesn't make me better in any way. But it makes me not this closed off guy, protecting myself, distrustful of you, afraid of you, critical of you, angry at you. I don't want to be that. I want to be this. This doesn't make me better. I got rid of my TV in 1999. Haven't watched TV since. And I would tell people this, and they'd be like, "You don't have a TV?" And I'm like, "No." And they'd say, "You don't have to watch sport. You don't watch sports?" I'm like, "No." Like, "How do you do it?" And I'm like, "I just don't want to do it." And then they say, "Well, I don't watch a lot either. I just watch this and my show and this." And they want to compare it because they think I'm thinking I'm better than them because I don't watch TV. You watch TV. You're on the boob tube. I'm not. I'm better than you. And that's not it. And I told them, I said, "Nope, here's what I think. I do not think I'm better than you because I don't watch TV. But I know for sure that I am better than the J.M. Blakley that would watch TV. The J.M. Blakley that doesn't watch TV is better than the J.M. Blakley that would watch TV. Because my life is different." And so I finally escaped this guilt maybe, or I try not to feel better than people, but when I know answers and they don't know answers, I know something they don't know. Does that make me smarter than them? Who cares? I don't care anymore. I'm just different. I'm a guy that knows the answer. They're a person that doesn't know the answer. Fine. Am I better? No. I'm just a guy, and I want to be the guy that knows the answer, not the guy that doesn't know. Well, how the fuck does that work? How the hell does that work? I know how it works. Here's how it works. And that's it. And that has saved me too, because I had trouble with that, right? Because I have some Judeo-Christian values that says we're not supposed to be prideful and this and that. And here I am just making myself stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And now I'm doing it again with being kind. And it's like this, you can't be all proud about how kind you are. That just sounds horrible.
Mm-hmm.
But I still want to be kinder than I am now. And now I just want to be kinder. That's it. For no reason other than I don't want to be unkind. And I want to be strong for people. For a reason I don't want to be the weak guy. I want to be a guy that people come to for strength. And you can't do that if you're the weak guy. You don't be that guy. You don't and I'd probably be lying. I haven't thought about it much, but I probably enjoy the respect I get for that. And I'll have to revisit that. But that could be something I do too. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but I want to be the guy that gets respect. I want to be the guy that is looked up to. I want to be that. I don't want to be the guy that like, he's a schmuck. I want to be the guy like, hey, that guy knows a few things. He's kind of cool. He's also kind. And look how strong he is. And that's something I want to be too. And I don't want to be the guy that isn't that. And so now it's no longer this competition. So I'm still trying to be stronger, but it is absolutely, positively a personal thing. And it is absolutely, to me, the same as when I lift weights. And so if a guy's lifting and they're done lifting, they have a lot of skills. They have a skill set. And I say, take that skill set and go to it, like you said, another mountain. Do another thing with that same skill set. And I finally found a way to do that, and it wasn't easy. There's a dark period in there, Dave.
Yeah.
There was a low tide, and I lost some good people. I lost a good woman that way, and I don't blame her. But I don't know if I'd be where I am if I didn't have that low tide. But I had the low tide. The low tide's over. I survived. I'm not, I say this with tongue in cheek, but it's actually literally true. I took more than one walk to the river with a handgun. Because, man, why? Why another day? Why more of this pain? And I got through that. And here I am now talking to you about being stronger. And so you have to know something about weakness to be strong. And I do. I know a lot about it. Way too. I wish I didn't know as much as I know about it. But I know a lot about it. And now I'm learning about strength of character. And I'm I don't know, I've said enough about it.
Yeah, I think that's a great message to end on. Would your Instagram still be the best place to get a hold of you?
Yes, please. And I hope people see it and comment on it too. I invite commentary.
I looked when I was earlier. I looked and you have some interaction going on a lot of these posts.
I want to interact with people. So my Instagram is JM Blakley, and my YouTube is capital J, capital M, JM, the numeral 7, lowercase THLEVEL. So JM 7th level, capital J, capital M, the numeral 7, and then lowercase THLEVEL.
We'll have all the stuff in the description.
I appreciate it, Dave.
Thank you for coming out again. It's been great.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, guys, we're done.
All right.
I gotta pee. You guys are selecting Merrick for your telehealth platform needs. They have a couple different ways that they go about doing this. The first is through a self-selected experience. There's a table talk panel, which is the full panel. That would be the panel that I personally get twice a year. That's checking everything. You name it, it's all there. The other panel is a checkup panel with a guided optimization. You're connected with a patient care coordinator, and the patient care coordinator will meet with you to determine what your needs are. Thing to be able to help optimize your health or mitigate without judgment. So the discount code again is Table Talk Merrick Health for all your hormone optimization and performance needs.
Today's episode is brought to you by Element, a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything that you need and nothing that you don't. In other words, no sugar, no artificial coloring, no artificial ingredients, no gluten, no fillers, and no BS. With Element, I love the watermelon. The watermelon tastes freaking awesome. I drank 1 pack every day, no matter what. People that train out here, it's sitting out here for them all the time. The boxes don't last very long. Right now, Element is offering Table Talk listeners a free sample pack with any purchase. That's 8 single-serving packages free with any Element order. Get yours at drinkelement.com/Table Talk. The deal is only available through the link in the description. The other thing is, if you don't like it, you can just give it away to a salty friend and Element will give you a 100% refund. No risk, money back guarantee. Head over to drinkelement.com.